Look up on a clear night, away from the hum of the cities and the glow of artificial progress, and your eyes will tell you a lie. They will tell you that the universe is a crowded place, a luminous tapestry of silver dust and diamond points, an overflowing treasury of matter and light. It is a natural instinct, a biological inheritance to see the glimmers and ignore the dark. We are creatures of the sun, evolved to seek the signal within the noise, to find the fruit on the branch and the fire in the cave. To our limited senses, the night sky feels like a presence. We see the Milky Way arching overhead like a bridge of steam, and we feel a sense of grand architecture, a solid structure in which we are safely housed. But this perception is the first and most persistent deception of the cosmos. The stars you see are not the rule. They are the vanishingly rare exceptions. They are the microscopic specks of dust in a cathedral that is otherwise utterly, hauntingly hollow. When we begin to measure the reality of the universe, we do not find a story of light. We find a story of an overwhelming predatory absence that is slowly, methodically, erasing everything we have ever known. This realization does not come all at once. It begins as a quiet observation, a mathematical twitch in our understanding of distance. For centuries, we looked at the sky as a map of destinations, a collection of places we might one day understand. We saw the planets, then the stars, then the nebulas, and finally the distant swirling islands of the galaxies. But the deeper our gaze penetrates the veil of the dark, the more we realize that the gaps are far more significant than the objects they separate. We are living in a brief, flickering moment of cosmic history where the lights are still close enough to see, but the darkness is already winning the long game. As we step into the shadow of these revelations, if you feel the weight of the infinite calling to you, perhaps you belong here, drifting further beyond the universe with us. Subscribe and let the journey consume the boundaries of what you thought you knew. For what lies ahead is not a celebration of discovery, but a descent into the realization that our existence is defined not by what is there, but by the terrifying magnitude of what is missing. To understand the scale of this emptiness, we must first confront the anatomy of our own neighborhood. We think of the solar system as a family of worlds, a tightly knit cluster of rock and gas orbiting a central hearth. But the numbers tell a different story, one of profound isolation. If you were to shrink the sun down to the size of a white blood cell, the entire solar system would be roughly the size of a football stadium. In this stadium, the sun, the source of all our life and energy, is a microscopic speck in the center. The Earth, our entire world, would be a speck so small it would be invisible to the naked eye, orbiting tens of yards away. And the next nearest star, Proxima Centauri, in this model, it wouldn't even be in the stadium. It wouldn't be in the same city. It would be another microscopic speck hundreds of miles away. Between that blood cell in the center of the stadium and the next one hundreds of miles distant, there is nothing. No air, no warmth, no solid ground. Just a vacuum so perfect it defies the imagination, punctuated only by the occasional stray atom or a passing photon of ancient light. This is the fundamental character of the universe. Distance. Not just distance as a measurement, but distance as a barrier, as a form of cosmic solitary confinement. We are separated from our nearest neighbors by a gulf so vast that even light, the fastest messenger in existence, takes over 4 years to cross it. If we were to send a radio signal to the nearest star tonight, and if there were someone there to hear it and reply instantly, we would wait nearly a decade for the answer. And that is just the beginning of the isolation. The stars we see in our night sky are all part of the Milky Way, our home galaxy. They are the neighbors on our immediate street, but the street is mostly empty pavement, and the houses are so far apart that the lights of one barely reach the porch of the next. We move through this void at incredible speeds, yet we feel stationary because there is nothing close enough to provide a sense of motion. We are drifting in a dark ocean, and the nearest islands are so far over the horizon that we might as well be the only thing in existence. When we look beyond our galaxy, the scale of the emptiness becomes even more difficult for the human mind to hold. The Milky Way is a vast city of hundreds of billions of stars, yet it is merely one island in a sea of nothingness. The distance between galaxies is so immense that the distance between stars seems like a crowded room by comparison. Between us and the Andromeda Galaxy, our nearest large neighbor, lie 2.5 million light-years of void. This is not a void filled with dust or gas or hidden secrets. It is the intergalactic medium, a space so sparsely populated that there might be only 1 or 2 atoms in a volume the size of a living room. If you were transported to a random point in the universe, the odds of you being inside a galaxy are practically zero. You would find yourself in the pitch-black heart of the intergalactic void, where the nearest star is so far away its light wouldn't even register as a spark to your eyes. You would be suspended in a darkness so absolute that you would lose all sense of up or down, of time or space, of being anything at all. It is a common mistake to think of the vacuum of space as a passive stage, a quiet background upon which the drama of matter plays out. We tend to view nothing as the absence of something, but modern physics suggests a much more unsettling reality. The emptiness is not passive, it is the dominant force. It is the canvas that is slowly expanding, stretching the matter thin until it disappears. We are taught to admire the cosmic web, the vast, sprawling structure of galaxies and dark matter that looks like a brain's neurons or a spider's silk. We see the bright filaments where galaxies cluster and we think, this is the structure of the universe. But look closer at the map of the large-scale universe. What do you see? You see the voids, great hollow bubbles of nothingness, tens or hundreds of millions of light-years across. These are the Bhuta's void, the Eridanus supervoid, the places where the light has literally failed to take root. These cosmic voids are the largest structures in existence, and they are growing. They are like bubbles in a rising loaf of bread, pushing the galaxies, the dough, into thinner and thinner walls. The voids are not just empty, they act as repellers. Because there is so little matter inside them, they have almost no gravitational pull. Meanwhile, the surrounding clusters of galaxies pull matter toward themselves. This creates a terrifying feedback loop. The empty places become emptier, and the full places become more isolated as they are pushed further apart by the expanding bubbles of nothing. We are watching the universe undergo a process of cosmic dilution. The density of reality is dropping. The connections that once held the young universe together are being snapped, one by the relentless growth of the void. There is a psychological weight to this realization that we rarely acknowledge. When we look at a photograph like the Hubble Ultra-Deep Field, we see thousands of galaxies in a tiny patch of sky, and we feel a sense of abundance. We think, the universe is teeming with life and light, but we forget that the photograph is a long exposure, a concentrated collection of light gathered over days. To the naked eye, that same patch of sky is a black, empty hole. The abundance is a trick of our technology. The reality is the blackness. The reality is that for every galaxy we find, there are millions of cubic light-years of absolute, freezing nothingness. We are focusing on the tiny, luminous froth on the surface of a deep, dark well, and we are convincing ourselves that the froth is the water. The deeper science probes into the fabric of spacetime, the more it seems that matter itself is a kind of impurity in an otherwise empty system. Consider the atom, the building block of everything you see, touch, and love. If an atom were expanded to the size of a cathedral, the nucleus, the part that contains nearly all the mass, would be the size of a small fly buzzing in the center. The electrons would be like tiny dust motes circling the very outer walls. Everything else, the vast majority of the cathedral's volume, is empty space. You, the chair you sit on, the planet beneath your feet, you are 99.9999% nothing. We are phantoms of solidity moving through a world of ghosts. The only reason you don't fall through the floor is not because you are solid, but because the electric fields of your atoms are repelling the electric fields of the floor's atoms. We are held together by forces, but we are composed of absence. This fractal nature of emptiness, from the subatomic to the cosmic, suggests a universe that is not built for us, or for anything solid at all. It suggests that the natural state of reality is the vacuum, and that matter is a temporary fluctuation, a brief shivering of the void that will eventually subside. We are living in a rare epoch of the universe's life, a time when the density of matter is still high enough for stars to form, for planets to coalesce, and for observers to wonder why there is something rather than nothing. But this era is a vanishingly small window. Before it was the hot, dense chaos of the Big Bang, and after it lies an eternity of cold, dark dilution. We are the witnesses of a fading light, standing on the deck of a ship that is slowly moving away from everything else in the ocean. The problem of distance is exacerbated by the speed of light. We often think of light as being incredibly fast, and it is, by our standards, but on a cosmic scale, it is agonizingly slow. It is the universal speed limit, a physical constraint that ensures we can never truly see the universe as it is right now. When you look at the moon, you see it as it was 1.3 seconds ago. When you look at the sun, you see it as it was 8 minutes ago. The further out you look, the further back in time you travel. This creates a cosmic horizon, a boundary beyond which we cannot see because there hasn't been enough time since the beginning of the universe for light to reach us. This means we are trapped in a bubble of visibility, There is a vast, potentially infinite universe beyond that horizon, but it is forever closed to us. We are seeing a postcard of the past, while the present is unfolding in a dark we can never penetrate. This delay in information creates a profound sense of cosmic lag. We might be looking at a distant star in a neighboring galaxy, admiring its blue-white brilliance, while in real time, that star died millions of years ago. We are surrounded by the ghosts of celestial objects, chasing the shadows of things that no longer exist. This disconnect between what we see and what is real contributes to a growing feeling of unease. We are like sailors looking at the light of a lighthouse, not knowing if the lighthouse is still standing or if the island it sat upon has already been swallowed by the sea. The deeper we look into space, the more we realize that the universe is not a simultaneous event. It is a fragmented, disjointed collection of histories, separated by the impenetrable wall of light travel time. As we contemplate the isolation of galaxies, we must confront the mechanism that is making it worse, the expansion of space itself. In the early 20th century, Edwin Hubble discovered that almost every galaxy he could see was moving away from us. More importantly, the further away they were, the faster they were receding. This was the first hint that the universe was not a static container, but a dynamic, growing entity. Space is not just the stage, it is the fabric, and that fabric is being stretched. Imagine a balloon with dots drawn on it. As you blow into the balloon, the dots don't move across the surface. The surface itself expands, carrying the dots away from each other. This is our reality. Every second, the gaps between the great clusters of galaxies are growing. The nothingness is creating more of itself. For a long time, we believed that gravity would eventually slow this expansion down. We thought that the mutual attraction of all the matter in the universe would act like a brake, eventually bringing the expansion to a halt or even reversing it in a big crunch. It was a comforting thought, a universe that stays together, a system that remains connected. But in the late 1990s, observations of distant supernovae revealed a truth that shattered our cosmological stability. The expansion is not slowing down, it is accelerating. Something is pushing the universe apart faster and faster every second. We have given this mysterious force a name, dark energy. We don't know what it is, but we know what it does. It acts as a kind of cosmic anti-gravity, a pressure inherent to space itself that becomes stronger as there is more space. This discovery changed the tone of our cosmic story from one of mystery to one of existential dread. If the expansion is accelerating, then the voids are not just growing, they are winning. The connections between the distant parts of the universe are being severed at an ever-increasing rate. We are living in a universe that is literally tearing itself apart. The galaxies we see in our telescopes today are the lucky ones, still close enough for their light to fight against the stretching of space and reach our lenses. But they are receding toward a point where they will be moving away from us faster than the speed of light. This isn't a violation of physics. The galaxies aren't moving through space faster than light. The space between us and them is being created so quickly that the light can never bridge the gap. One by one, the distant galaxies will cross the cosmic event horizon and vanish forever. Imagine a future astronomer on Earth, billions of years from now. By that time, the acceleration of dark energy will have pushed all other galaxy clusters beyond our horizon. The night sky will be darker. The rich variety of the cosmos, the millions of galaxies we see today, will be gone. They won't have died. They will simply be unreachable, invisible, and effectively non-existent to any observer in our galaxy. Our descendants will live in an island universe, a single cluster of stars surrounded by an infinite, impenetrable darkness. They will look at their telescopes and see nothing but the stars of their own galaxy. They will have no way of knowing that other galaxies ever existed. The entire history of the Big Bang, the expansion and the vast scale of the cosmos will be erased from the sky. They will be trapped in a permanent, solitary dark, believing they are the only thing that ever was. We are currently living in the golden age of cosmology, a brief window where the universe is still young enough to be visible, but old enough to be understood. We are the only generation of observers who can see both the beginning and the end. We can see the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, and we can see the accelerating expansion that will lead to the end. But this window is closing. The light is fading. The silence is growing. Every day, the volume of the observable universe that we can actually reach or communicate with shrinks. We are like people on a sinking island, watching the last of the other islands dip below the horizon, knowing that soon, the water will be the only thing left to see. This realization of cosmic isolation forces us to reconsider the meaning of connection. In our daily lives, we value our links to others, our place in a community, our history as a species. But on a cosmic scale, connection is a fragile, temporary fluke. The universe does not seem designed to foster relationships between its various parts. It seems designed to isolate them. The law of the cosmos is not unity, but dispersion. Entropy, the second law of thermodynamics, dictates that order must inevitably decay into disorder, that concentrated energy must spread out until it is uniform and cold. The expansion of the universe is the ultimate expression of entropy. It is the ultimate spreading out. Consider the stars themselves. We see them as eternal, but they are just as temporary as we are. A star is a delicate balance between the inward pull of gravity and the outward pressure of nuclear fusion. It is a brief candle burning against the dark. Eventually, every star will run out of fuel. The small ones will fade into white dwarfs, then cool into black dwarfs, cold, dark lumps of matter that emit no light. The large ones will explode in supernovae, leaving behind neutron stars or black holes. There will come a time when the stelliferous era, the age of stars, will end. The universe will stop making new stars as the gas clouds become too thin and the existing stars burn out. The lights of the universe will go out one by one, like the streetlights of a city at the end of the world. This transition from a universe of light to a universe of shadows is not a sudden catastrophe. It is a slow, agonizing dilution. It is the process of the universe becoming less of everything, less dense, less warm, less luminous, less connected. We are witnessing the slow-motion death of the cosmic organism. And as we watch, we find that the science we use to understand this process does not provide comfort. It only provides a clearer view of the exit. The more we learn about dark matter, the invisible scaffolding that holds galaxies together, the more we realize that even this hidden structure is being overwhelmed by dark energy. The dark matter filaments are being stretched and snapped. The cosmic web is fraying. The psychological consequences of this scale are profound. How do we find meaning in a reality that is fundamentally hostile to the preservation of information and structure? If the end result of all of history is a cold, dark, empty void, then what was the purpose of the brief flash of light in the middle? We are used to stories having a climax, a resolution, a point, but the story of the universe seems to be a story of a beautiful opening chapter followed by a trillion pages of blank black paper. It is a narrative that dissolves as it progresses. The deeper we go, the more the characters, the stars, the planets, the people are erased by the background. This feeling of unease is not just a philosophical malaise. It is rooted in the very physics of observation. To observe something is to connect with it, to exchange information. But as the distances grow and the expansion accelerates, the possibility of observation itself begins to break down. We are approaching a limit of knowledge. There are truths about the universe that are moving away from us faster than we can learn them. There are regions of space that have already become causally disconnected from us, meaning nothing that happens there can ever affect us, and nothing we do can ever affect them. They are, for all intents and purposes, in a different universe. The reality we inhabit is shattering into a billion lonely pieces, each one destined to be forgotten by the others. This is where the realization sharpens. The universe stops feeling like a home and begins to look like a process of evacuation. We are the stowaways on a ship that is being dismantled as it sails. The parts we thought were solid are mostly empty space. The parts we thought were connected are being torn apart, and the light we rely on to see is a fading echo of a distant past. The void is not a lack of something, it is the inevitable destination of everything. And as we continue to look into the deep dark, we must ask ourselves, what happens to the mind when it finally realizes that it is alone in an infinite room, and the door is being locked from the outside? The concept of spacetime itself, once a stable mathematical framework, begins to feel like a trap. Einstein showed us that space and time are inextricably linked, a four-dimensional fabric that can be warped by mass. But he also showed us that this fabric is not a solid ground. It is a fluid, a medium that can stretch and flow. In a universe dominated by dark energy, space-time is not just a container. It is an active participant in our erasure. It is the medium of our exile. The very coordinates that define our position in the universe are being stretched, making the here further from the there with every passing nanosecond. We are losing our grip on the coordinates of reality. We often speak of the observable universe as if it were the whole universe, but it is just a fraction. Beyond our horizon, the universe may be infinite, and in an infinite universe, the emptiness is also infinite. If you travel far enough in any direction, you will eventually leave the region where the Big Bang's light can reach you. You will enter the unknown, a place where the laws of physics might still apply, but where no record of our existence will ever penetrate. The universe is not just big, It is fundamentally unshareable. We are each at the center of our own observable bubble, and as time goes on, those bubbles are becoming more isolated. The shared reality we think we inhabit is an illusion fostered by the fact that we are still relatively close together, but that closeness is a temporary condition. The Hubble tension, the fact that different ways of measuring the expansion of the universe give different results, suggests that our understanding of this process is still incomplete. Some scientists wonder if dark energy is constant, or if it might change over time. If it gets stronger, we face a big rip, where the expansion becomes so violent that it tears apart galaxies, stars, planets, and eventually atoms themselves. If it gets weaker, the universe might eventually collapse. But the most likely scenario, based on everything we see, is the heat death, the slow, steady freezing of all things. This is the ultimate silence toward which we are drifting. It is the end of change, the end of heat, and the end of time as we know it. As we stare into this future, the stelliferous era we inhabit seems like a brief, frantic party in a house that is about to be demolished. We are the late-night guests, admiring the decorations and the music while the walls are already being pulled down around us. The unease comes from the realization that our entire history, the rise of life, the development of intelligence, the search for truth, is occurring in a tiny transient pocket of habitability. We are a biological fluke in a physical system that is moving toward a state where biology is impossible. The universe is not hostile to life. It is simply indifferent, and its long-term plans do not include us. This indifference is perhaps the most difficult thing for the human ego to process. We want to believe that the universe is a stage for a grand drama, and that we are the protagonists. But the physics of the void suggests that the drama is just a bit of static on a channel that is mostly dead air. The emptiness is not a flaw in the design. It is the design. The stars are just the waste heat of a system that is settling into its final, frozen state. When we look at the night sky now, we should see it not as a map of what is there, but as a countdown of what is leaving. We must also consider the role of dark matter in this unfolding isolation. While dark energy pushes things apart, dark matter is the glue that tries to hold them together. It is an invisible, mysterious substance that does not emit or reflect light, yet it makes up the vast majority of the matter in the universe. It forms the halos around galaxies, providing the gravitational pull necessary to keep them from flying apart. But even this invisible skeleton is not enough to stop the expansion. Dark matter is like a spider's web trying to hold together a collapsing building. It provides some structure, some temporary resistance, but it is ultimately being overwhelmed by the stretching of the ground beneath it. The realization that the very structure of the universe is invisible to us adds another layer to our cosmic isolation. We are made of normal matter, atoms, protons, electrons, but this stuff is a tiny minority of the universe's content. We are a minority report in a cosmos dominated by dark matter and dark energy. We are like tourists in a foreign country where we don't speak the language and we can't see the locals. We are interacting with a reality that we can barely perceive, and that reality is moving in a direction that leads to our eventual disappearance. From here, the descent begins to deepen. The universe looks full, but its story is written in absence. We have seen the deceptive beauty of the stars and the chilling reality of the gaps between them. We have felt the first tremors of the expansion that is tearing our cosmic home apart, but we have not yet looked into the deepest part of the void. We have not yet confronted the growing supervoids that are carving the universe into isolated chunks. We have not yet considered the possibility that reality itself might behave differently at these largest scales, or what it means for the future of consciousness to be trapped in an evaporating world. Ahead, the silence grows heavier, the numbers become harder to hold, and the dark stops feeling like a background. As we move from the familiar stars of our own galaxy to the distant reaches of the cosmic web, the scale will become more crushing, the numbers more impossible, and the silence more absolute. We are moving away from the light of the fire and into the heart of the winter. We are beginning to see that the universe is not just a place where things happen, but a place where things go to be forgotten. The silence between the galaxies is not a peaceful quiet. It is a scream of distance, a proclamation of the ultimate unreachable nature of the other. And so we continue our descent. We leave the comfort of the Milky Way behind and drift into the intergalactic dark. We watch as the great clusters of galaxies recede into the distance, their light shifting to red, then infrared, then vanishing into the radio spectrum as they are stretched by the expansion. We are entering the territory of the great nothing, where the rules of the human world no longer apply. This is the story of the universe's slow retreat from itself. This is the story of the end of connection. This is the beginning of the realization that the emptiness was here first, and it will be here last. As we move further out, the very concept of location begins to fail. In a universe where everything is moving away from everything else, where is the center? Where is the anchor? There is no fixed point in space. You are at the center of your observable universe, and I am at the center of mine. But these centers are moving apart. The ground is shifting. The coordinates are melting. We are in a reality with no foundation, a house built on a river that is flowing toward a waterfall. And as the river widens, the banks disappear and we are left with nothing but the water and the dark. The unease you feel is the correct response. It is the sound of a mind trying to map an unmappable scale. It is the feeling of a creature evolved for the forest and the savanna trying to breathe in the vacuum of the intergalactic void. We were never meant to understand these things. We were meant to find food, to find mates, and to survive until tomorrow. But we have looked too far. We have seen the blueprint of our own erasure, and once you have seen it, the night sky never looks the same again. It no longer looks like a canopy of light. It looks like a thinning veil, a temporary screen that is being pulled back to reveal the infinite silent dark that has been waiting for us all along. Every photon that hits your eye from a distant star has traveled for thousands, perhaps millions of years. It has crossed a wilderness of nothingness, dodging gas clouds and gravity wells, surviving the long, lonely trek across the vacuum just to reach your retina. It is a miracle of persistence, but for every photon that makes it, trillions of others are lost in the dark, sailing into the empty spaces where there is no eye to see them. The universe is a vast machine for the wasting of light. It is a system that produces brilliance only to let it dissipate into the cold. We are the rare, momentary collectors of this waste, the brief observers of a process that is fundamentally indifferent to being observed. This brings us to the cosmic voids in a more literal sense. We must look at the Bootes void, a region of space nearly 330 million light-years in diameter that contains almost no galaxies. If the Milky Way were in the center of the Bootes void, we wouldn't have known other galaxies existed until the 1960s. We would have looked out and seen nothing. A few lonely stars perhaps, but otherwise a total devastating dark. There are people perhaps in other parts of the universe who are living in that dark right now. They are the inhabitants of the empty places, the ones for whom the universe has already become a single lonely room. These voids are the lungs of the universe, and they are breathing out, pushing the matter away. As they grow, they merge. The great nothing is consolidating. The filaments of the cosmic web are being thinned out, like the strands of a spider's web being stretched until they snap. When we look at the large-scale structure of the universe, we aren't looking at a permanent map. We are looking at a snapshot of a shattering glass. The cracks are the voids, and they are spreading. The psychological shock of this realization is that it turns our worldview upside down. We are used to thinking of the universe as a thing that exists, but perhaps we should think of it as a void that is briefly contaminated by things. The nothingness is the default state. The light is the anomaly. The silence is the truth. And the noise of our lives is just a temporary interference. As we continue this investigation, we must prepare ourselves for the possibility that the deeper we look, the less there is to find. We are moving toward the revelation that distance is not just a physical quantity, but a metaphysical one. It is the measure of our isolation. It is the wall that ensures we will never truly know the other. And as dark energy continues to build that wall higher and thicker, we are left with a single, haunting question. Why are we here, in this brief moment of visibility, just to watch it all disappear? What is the purpose of a witness to a fading reality? Perhaps there is no purpose. Perhaps we are just the last ones left in the theater after the movie has ended, watching the credits roll in a language we can't understand. But the credits are still rolling, and the lights are still flickering. We still have time to look. We still have time to measure the dark and to map the holes in the sky. We are the explorers of the void, the cartographers of the nothing. From here, the emptiness begins to reveal its mechanisms: the death of stars, the evaporation of black holes, and the final cold horizon of heat death. The universe's deeper story is not one of fire, but of frost. The tension is rising because we are starting to see the edges of the cage. We are starting to feel the pull of the vacuum. The universe is not a home. It is a transit station, and the last train is leaving. The passengers are the stars and the galaxies, and the destination is the dark. We are the ones left on the platform, watching the taillights fade into the distance, realizing that there is no next train. There is only the station, the silence, and the encroaching cold. And so we turn our gaze further out. We look toward the great attractor, the Shapley supercluster. and the massive structures that still try to hold the light together. We see the struggle between the pull of gravity and the push of the expansion. It is a war of the worlds, played out on a scale of billions of light years, and we see, with increasing clarity, which side is going to win. What lies beyond is not a place we are going. It is the state of the universe after we are gone. It is the universe without us, without light, without memory. The darkness deepens as we move into the heart of the void, where the stars are fewer and the questions are heavier. Ahead lies the question of what happens when the universe finally runs out of light, and what remains when isolation becomes absolute. The universe is becoming much, much larger, and much, much emptier than we ever dared to imagine. As the final familiar lights fade, we prepare to enter a realm where even the ghosts of stars no longer linger. We leave behind the warm, familiar glow of our galactic neighborhood, a cluster of a few dozen galaxies we call the local group. In the grand inventory of the cosmos, this is our small provincial town. But as we drift further out into the intergalactic wilderness, the perspective shifts from one of belonging to one of profound alienation. The gaps between the great superclusters of galaxies are not merely empty spaces. They are the true face of the universe. We have been conditioned to look at the bright spots, the stars, the nebulae, the spiraling arms of light, and call that the universe. But the math reveals a much more haunting proportion. If you were to take the entire volume of the observable universe and strip away the vacuum, leaving only the solid matter, you would be left with a speck so small it would barely register against the scale of a single solar system. The universe is a vast, echoing hollow, and we are the microscopic residue clinging to its thinning walls. As we descend into the deeper layers of this reality, we must confront the structure that defines the largest scales of existence, the cosmic web. Imagine a tangled, glowing mesh of silk threads, where each thread is a filament of dark matter and gas, and each knot is a massive cluster containing thousands of galaxies. This is the scaffolding of the cosmos. It looks organic, almost biological, resembling the neural pathways of a brain or the delicate structure of a sponge. But this appearance of complexity is another deception. The filaments are becoming longer, thinner, and more fragile. The web is not being woven, it is being stretched to the breaking point. Between these filaments lie the great voids, spherical regions of absolute nothingness that are slowly hollowed out by the expansion of space. The voids dominate the universe's topography, occupying most of its volume. We do not live in a universe of galaxies. We live in a universe of holes. Consider the Bode's void, a region so vast and so empty that it defies the human capacity for dread. It is 330 million light-years across. To cross it at the speed of light would take longer than the entire history of the mammalian lineage on Earth. If you were placed in the center of this void, the night sky would be a perfect, impenetrable black. There would be no stars, no galaxies, no milky smears of light. You would be in a darkness so absolute that the very concept of outside would feel like a myth. For an observer in the heart of Botas, the universe is effectively dead. This is not a hypothetical nightmare. It is a physical reality for any life that might have emerged in the few lonely galaxies trapped within that space. They are the heralds of our own future, a preview of what happens when the distance becomes the only thing that remains. These voids are not static. They are growing, pushing the surrounding matter into thin, unstable walls. This process is driven by the fact that gravity, the force we associate with order and structure, is losing its grip. In the early universe, gravity was the master, pulling the primordial gas into the first stars and galaxies. But as the universe expanded, the density of matter dropped. The nothing between the galaxies began to take over. Today, the voids act like cosmic repellers. Because they contain so little mass, they exert almost no gravitational pull. Meanwhile, the dense filaments pull matter toward themselves. The result is a terrifying feedback loop. The voids become emptier as they lose their remaining matter to the filaments, and as they empty out, they expand even faster, pushing the filaments further apart. The universe is being carved into isolated pockets, and the bridges between them are snapping. The scale of this isolation is almost impossible to reconcile with our daily experience. We live in a world of contact, of touch, of sight, of sound. We believe that if we can see something, we can eventually reach it. But the physics of the intergalactic medium suggests a different law. The distances are so immense that they are no longer just measurements. They are temporal barriers. If we were to look at a galaxy on the far side of a major void, we are seeing light that has traveled through a vacuum so pure that a single atom might be the only inhabitant of a space the size of an ocean. That light is a survivor of a journey through the great nothing. By the time it reaches our eyes, the galaxy that emitted it has been pushed millions of light years further away by the expansion of the void. We are looking at a target that is perpetually retreating into a darkness we can never penetrate. This brings us to the most unsettling component of the cosmic structure, dark matter. We call it matter, but it is unlike anything we have ever touched. It does not reflect light, it does not emit heat, and it does not interact with the electromagnetic force. It is invisible, untouchable, and yet it outweighs normal matter 5-1. It is the invisible cage that holds the galaxies together. Without dark matter, the Milky Way would fly apart like a spinning top made of loose sand. We are the prisoners of an unseen architecture, held in place by a ghost that we can only detect by the way it warps the path of light and the movement of stars. We are living in a house where the walls are made of something we cannot see, and the floor is made of a vacuum that is trying to pull the house apart. There is a profound irony in our discovery of dark matter. Just as we were beginning to feel that we understood the universe, we realized that everything we had ever seen, every star, every planet, every person, was just a minor dusting of soot on an invisible, titanic structure. We are the light matter, the 5% that happens to glow. The rest of the universe is a dark, silent mystery that we are only beginning to map. But even this invisible scaffolding is not permanent. As dark energy accelerates the expansion of space, the dark matter filaments are being stretched. The glue of the universe is being pulled thin. We are witnessing the slow-motion disintegration of everything, where even the invisible structures are failing to hold the line against the rising tide of emptiness. The unease of this discovery is compounded by the Hubble tension, one of the most significant crises in modern physics. We have two ways of measuring how fast the universe is expanding. One by looking at the ancient light of the Big Bang, and another by looking at the stars and galaxies in the modern universe. The problem is that the numbers don't match. The universe appears to be expanding faster today than our theories of the early universe say it should. This isn't just a mathematical error, it's a crack in the foundation of our reality. It suggests that there is something fundamentally wrong with our map of the cosmos. Perhaps dark energy is changing. Perhaps gravity behaves differently over these impossible distances. Or perhaps the universe is simply more unstable than we are prepared to admit. If the expansion is accelerating faster than predicted, the cosmic event horizon is closing in on us even more rapidly. This horizon is the limit of the reachable universe. Beyond this point, space is expanding away from us so fast that even light can never bridge the gap. Every day, stars and galaxies that were once visible are crossing this threshold and disappearing from our potential future. They are being deleted from our reality. This is not just a loss of information, it is a loss of existence. For an observer on Earth, once a galaxy crosses that horizon, it might as well have never existed. It is no longer part of our causal universe. We are becoming more isolated with every tick of the clock, and the number of places we could ever hope to visit or communicate with is shrinking towards zero. The psychological weight of this horizon is immense. It suggests that we are living in a shrinking bubble of light. Imagine being on a ship in the middle of a dark ocean, and the circle of light from your lamp is slowly getting smaller. You can see the water fading into the blackness, and you know that once something slips into that dark, it is gone forever. This is the human condition in the 21st century. We have discovered that we are not at the center of a vast, eternal kingdom, but in a temporary, evaporating pocket of visibility. The beyond is not a frontier to be conquered. It is the abyss that is consuming our world. We often talk about the observable universe with a sense of wonder, but the term itself is a confession of our limitations. It is the part of the universe that has had enough time to send its light to us. But as the expansion accelerates, the observable universe is actually getting smaller in terms of the stuff it contains. We are losing galaxies to the dark at a rate that defies comprehension. We are watching the horizon swallow the history of the cosmos. This is the redshift, the process where the light from receding galaxies is stretched into longer, redder wavelengths. Eventually, that light will be stretched so far that it becomes invisible, then fades into the radio spectrum, and finally becomes so diluted that it cannot be detected at all. The universe is literally fading to black. This process of cosmic redshift is a form of universal amnesia. Information is being lost. The light that carries the story of a galaxy's birth, its stars, and its potential life is being stretched until it breaks. We are the witnesses of a dying signal. When we look at a distant galaxy, we are not just looking at a distant place, we are looking at a fading memory. And because the expansion is accelerating, that memory is being erased faster and faster. We are like someone trying to read a book while the pages are being torn out and thrown into a fire. We can see the fragments, but the full story is becoming unreachable. The isolation of the galaxies leads us to a disturbing realization about the nature of time. If space and time are one fabric, then the stretching of space is also a stretching of time. Over these vast intergalactic distances, the concept of now ceases to have any meaning. There is no synchronized clock for the universe. Each galaxy is its own island of time, separated from the others by a gulf that ensures they can never truly communicate. We are seeing the universe in bits and pieces, a fragmented montage of different eras, none of which are happening at the same time as our own. We are living in a now that is entirely local, entirely isolated. The grand simultaneous universe is an illusion. This fragmentation is the precursor to the ultimate isolation, the era of the island universe. In about 100 billion years, the expansion will have pushed every other galaxy cluster beyond our horizon. The Milky Way will have merged with Andromeda and other local neighbors to form one giant, aging galaxy. But beyond the edges of this galaxy, there will be nothing. No other stars, no other galaxies, no cosmic microwave background. Any civilization that arises in that era will look at the sky and see a total void. They will have no way of knowing that the Big Bang happened. They will have no evidence that other galaxies ever existed. Their science will conclude that their single galaxy is the entire universe, surrounded by an infinite, eternal nothingness. They will be the victims of a cosmic gaslighting, a reality that has erased its own past. We are currently in the privileged position of being able to see the evidence. We can see the other islands before they slip over the horizon. But this privilege comes with a burden of knowledge. We know that we are temporary. We know that the beauty of the night sky is a fleeting accident of timing. If we had evolved a few 100 billion years later, we would have been blind to the true scale of the cosmos. If we had evolved a few 100 billion years earlier, the universe would have been too dense and hot for us to see clearly. We are living in the golden window, the brief moment of clarity between the chaos of the beginning and the silence of the end. And that clarity reveals a truth that is difficult to hold. The universe is not becoming more connected, it is falling apart. The silence between the galaxies is not just a lack of sound, it is a lack of interaction. In the physics of the vacuum, the nothingness has a quality of its own. It is the zero-point energy, the lowest possible energy state of the universe. Even in the deepest void, there is a frantic, microscopic activity, particles popping in and out of existence, fluctuations of the quantum foam. But on the macroscopic scale, this activity means nothing. It cannot bridge the millions of light years of distance. The vacuum is a perfect insulator. It prevents the exchange of heat, the transmission of energy, and the survival of complex structures. The vacuum is the ultimate entropy. Entropy is the shadow that follows all light. It is the law that says energy must always move from a concentrated state to a diluted state. A star is a concentrated ball of energy, but it is constantly leaking that energy into the cold void. Eventually, the star will have no more energy to give. It will reach equilibrium with the vacuum. The universe is a giant machine designed to turn something into nothing. It is a process of evening out the wrinkles, of cooling the hot spots, of smoothing the fabric until there is no structure left. This is the heat death, the final state of maximum entropy, and the expansion of the universe is the accelerator of this process. It provides more room for the energy to spread out, making the dilution happen faster. The scale of the heat death is psychologically crushing because of the timescales involved. We think of the age of the universe, 13.8 billion years, as an immense length of time, but in the life of the universe, this is just the first microsecond of the first day. The stelliferous era, the age when stars shine, will last for about 100 trillion years. That sounds like a long time, but it is nothing compared to what comes after. Once the last star has burned out, the universe will enter the degenerate era, lasting for $10 years, a 1 followed by 40 zeros. This is the era of black holes and dead husks of stars, and even that is just the beginning. The black hole era will last for $10 years. Compared to these numbers, the entire history of life on Earth is less than a blink of an eye. We are a momentary spark in a darkness that will last for a near infinity. This realization changes the way we view the emptiness of the universe. It is not just a spatial emptiness, it is a temporal one. Most of the history of the universe will be empty. Most of the volume of the universe is already empty. We are the anomaly. We are the noise in a system that is settling into a permanent silence. The unease we feel when we look at the voids is a biological recognition of our own irrelevance. We are built for the now, for the here, for the solid, but the universe is built for the forever, for the everywhere, for the nothing. Our existence is a brief defiance of the laws of the cosmos, a temporary gathering of energy that the universe is already working to disperse. As we move deeper into this investigation, we must ask if the emptiness is active. Some theories of dark energy suggest that the vacuum itself has a pressure. This means that every cubic centimeter of empty space contains a tiny amount of energy, and as the universe expands, the total amount of dark energy increases because there is more space. This is a terrifying prospect. It means the nothing is creating more nothing, which in turn pushes the something even further away. The void is not a passive background. It is a growing, self-replicating force. It is the only thing in the universe that gets stronger as it gets bigger. Matter dilutes, light fades, but the vacuum persists and multiplies. This leads us to the Big Rip hypothesis, a potential future where the pressure of the vacuum becomes so strong that it overcomes all other forces. In this scenario, the expansion of the universe doesn't just push galaxies apart, it begins to pull at the galaxies themselves. First, the outer stars are stripped away. Then the galaxy is shredded. Then the pressure begins to act on solar systems. The planets are pulled from their orbits. Finally, the stars themselves are torn open. In the last moments, the pressure becomes so intense that it overcomes the electromagnetic forces holding molecules together, and then the strong nuclear force holding atoms together. The fabric of reality is literally ripped to shreds. The universe ends not with a whimper, but with a total microscopic disintegration. While the Big Rip is speculative, the underlying reality, that the vacuum is winning, is not. We are already seeing the first signs of this tearing. We see it in the way the great superclusters are being elongated and broken. We see it in the Hubble tension, where the universe seems to be breaking our models. We are living in a system that is losing its structural integrity. What lies beyond is not just out there in space. It is in the very fabric of the room you're sitting in. The space between the atoms in your body is subject to the same expansion as the space between the galaxies. For now, the forces holding you together are much stronger than the expansion, but the balance is shifting. This shifts the narrative from one of exploration to one of a cosmic briefing on a disaster in progress. We are like investigators looking at the stress fractures in a bridge. We see where the light is failing, where the distances are becoming insurmountable, and where the nothing is encroaching. The psychological impact is a form of cosmic dread, the realization that our context is disappearing. Everything we value, culture, art, science, memory, is dependent on the existence of matter and energy in a state of order. But the universe is moving toward a state of total disorder, where no information can be preserved. The void is the ultimate censor. Consider the limits of observation. We are limited by the speed of light, but we are also limited by the expansion of the mind. Can the human brain truly grasp a distance of 1 billion light-years? Can we truly feel the weight of a void like Buddha's? We use metaphors, oceans, cathedrals, bubbles, but these are just crutches. The reality is something that our evolutionary history has not prepared us for. We are a species that feels small when we look at a mountain. How are we supposed to feel when we look at a gap between galaxies that could hold 1 trillion mountains and still be effectively empty? The scale doesn't just make us feel small, it makes us feel non-existent. The emptiness of the universe is a challenge to our definition of reality. We define real as something we can interact with. But if a galaxy is moving away from us faster than light and we can never interact with it again, is it still real to us? In a sense, the universe is shrinking. The real universe for us is only the part we can reach. Everything else is falling into a state of unreality. We are being edited down. The grand, infinite cosmos is being pruned until only our tiny, lonely neighborhood remains, and even that neighborhood is aging, its stars burning out, its gas being depleted. This is the doubt phase of our journey. We begin to doubt the permanence of anything. We doubt the solidity of our world. We doubt the connection between the stars. We see the universe not as a home, but as a scattering of debris after an explosion that is still happening. We are the shrapnel, moving further and further apart, losing the warmth of the center. The journey is an invitation to look at this debris and see it for what it is. It is an invitation to confront the silence without blinking, because only by acknowledging the emptiness can we truly appreciate the brief, fragile miracle of the light. Let us look closer at the intergalactic medium, the space between the islands. It is not a perfect vacuum, but it is close. It is filled with a thin, ionized gas, heated to millions of degrees by the radiation of the galaxies. But because the gas is so thin, it doesn't feel hot in any way we would understand. If you were there, you would freeze to death instantly. The atoms are so far apart that they almost never collide. This is a collisionless environment, a place where the normal laws of thermodynamics behave strangely. It is a place of total stasis, where a single atom might travel for billions of years without ever touching another. This is the background of the universe, and it is overwhelmingly larger than the foreground of the galaxies. The sheer volume of this background is what creates the sense of cosmic isolation. If we were to represent all the galaxies in the universe as grains of sand, they would fit into a single bucket, but the empty space between them would fill the entire Earth. This is the ratio of something to nothing. We are living in a grain of sand, and we are trying to understand the Earth-sized vacuum that surrounds us. And that vacuum is not empty. It is filled with dark energy, pushing us further away from the other grains of sand. We are being scattered into a desert of infinite proportions. The deceptive beauty of the night sky is the first thing to go as you move into this mindset. The constellations, the familiar patterns of the stars, they are all gone once you leave the Milky Way. They are local illusions. From the perspective of the intergalactic void, there are no patterns. There is only a dim, uniform glow of distant galaxies, each one a tiny, unreachable spark. The universe has no face. It has no center. It is a vast, featureless expanse that looks the same in every direction. This is the cosmological principle, the idea that the universe is homogeneous and isotropic on large scales. But what it really means is that on the largest scales, the universe is boring. It is a repetition of emptiness, broken only by the occasional lonely filament of light. This homogeneity is itself a form of terror. It means there is no away to go to. There is no frontier that is different from where we are. The emptiness we see here is the same emptiness we would see a billion light years away. There is no escape from the scale. There is no edge to the universe where things get better. There is only more of the same, more expansion, more dark energy, more isolation. We are trapped in an infinite repetition of a finite problem. As we contemplate this, the existential tension begins to rise. We start to feel the atmosphere of the cosmos as something heavy and cold. It is the weight of the nothing. It is the pressure of the never to be reached. We realize that the universe is not just a place where we live. It is a place that is actively outlasting us. The timescales of the universe are so much larger than the timescales of life that we are essentially irrelevant to the cosmic story. The universe doesn't care about our golden window. It is moving toward its own goals: equilibrium, entropy, silence. The death of stars is the first stage of this final silence. A star is a factory that turns hydrogen into heavier elements, releasing energy in the process. But the amount of hydrogen in the universe is finite. Every star that burns is consuming a portion of the universe's potential. We are living in the waste of the Big Bang, the leftover gas that is being used up. One day the gas will be gone. The stelliferous era will end not with a crash but with a slow, sputtering fade. The youngest stars, the tiny red dwarfs, will be the last to go, burning for trillions of years. But eventually, even they will run out of fuel. The universe will become a graveyard of white dwarfs, neutron stars, and black holes. These dead objects will be the only things left in the galaxies. But even the galaxies themselves are not stable. Over trillions of years, the random interactions between the dead stars will cause some to be thrown out into the intergalactic void, while others will fall into the central supermassive black hole. The galaxies will evaporate. The structured islands of light will become a scattered collection of cold cinders drifting alone in the dark. The island universe will become a single-object universe, where each dead star is so far from its neighbors that it can no longer see them. The psychological consequence of this is the ultimate loneliness. It is the realization that even the islands are temporary. The very idea of a community of stars or a system of planets is a brief phase in the history of matter. The final state of matter is isolation. Each particle will eventually be alone, separated from every other particle by the expansion of space. The universe will become a place where connection is physically impossible. This is the logical conclusion of the path we are on. It is the destination of the nothingness. But before we reach that final state, we have to deal with the revelation of the present. We have to deal with the fact that we are seeing it happen. We are the only generation that has the tools to measure the expansion and the intelligence to understand what it means. This puts us in a unique and terrifying position. We are the ones who have to hold the knowledge of the end while living in the beginning. We have to look at the beautiful, crowded sky and see the empty, silent future. This is the unsettling truth that the beyond the universe journey is built upon. Why does the universe behave this way? Why is it moving towards silence rather than harmony? The answer lies in the very nature of space and time. Space is not just nothing, it is a thing that can be created. And the creation of space is the primary activity of the universe. Matter is just a byproduct, a contaminant, that was created in the heat of the Big Bang. The goal of the universe, if we can use such a word, is to maximize the amount of space. The expansion is not a flaw, it is the point. We are living in a universe that is obsessed with more, not more life, not more light, but more distance. This obsession with distance is what makes the universe feel so alien. Everything we value is based on closeness, on the density of information, the proximity of energy, the connection between people, but the universe values separation. It is a system that is constantly pushing back against the solid. It is a system that is trying to dissolve the knots and smooth the fabric. We are the knots, and the universe is trying to untie us. The tension we feel is the literal tension of the expanding fabric of spacetime. By now, curiosity has begun to harden into unease. We have seen the scale of the voids, the invisible hand of dark matter, the acceleration of dark energy, and the fading light of the redshift. We have looked into the future of the island universe and the heat death. We have seen that our era is a golden window that is rapidly closing. The universe is not a stable stage, it is a dissolving one. What lies beyond is no longer a mystery to be solved, it is a reality to be faced. It is the realization that the emptiness is not an exception, but the rule. The stars are not the story, the gaps are, and the gaps are growing. We are being edited out of the cosmic narrative, one galaxy at a time. The silence is not coming, it is already here, in the spaces between the atoms of your body and the spaces between the stars of your galaxy. We are just the last ones to notice. But beneath that realization, something quieter remains. Beneath the large-scale disintegration lies a quieter fate. Black holes fading, vacuum instability waiting, and structure itself dissolving. The descent continues beyond the deceptive beauty of the sky and into the anatomy of the end. Each revelation leaves more silence behind it. Each revelation adds another layer of weight to the existential problem. We are not just looking at physics, we are looking at the architecture of our own disappearance. The unsettling part is not that the universe is big, it's that it's getting bigger and we are getting smaller. The distance is not just a gap, it's a destiny. Imagine the first human to ever look through a telescope and realize that the stars were not just lights but suns. That was a moment of expansion for the human mind. Now, imagine the last human to ever look at the sky and see only a total, empty black. That will be the moment of the mind's final contraction. We are the ones in the middle, the ones who know both the something and the nothing. We are the ones who have to bridge the gap with our imagination, because our bodies can never bridge it in space. At this point, the tension stops being abstract. How do we live with this knowledge? How do we find value in a brief flash of light in an infinite dark? The answer is not in the science, but in the observation itself. The fact that we can see the void and name it is a miracle in its own right. We are the eyes of the universe looking back at its own disintegration. We are nothing that became something just long enough to realize it is becoming nothing again. The observable begins to dissolve into the speculative, until even the laws themselves start to feel unstable. The limits of reality itself begin to appear as the laws of physics are pushed toward their breaking point by the expansion of the dark. The light is redshifting, the distances are growing, the voids are merging, the nothing is calling. We are moving toward the final revelation, the one that changes everything, the one that tells us not just where we are, but what we are. A temporary fluctuation in a cold, dark, and infinite ocean, and the ocean is rising. As the lights of the stelliferous era begin to sputter and fail, we find ourselves entering a landscape defined not by the birth of suns, but by the spectral remains of a reality that has exhausted its potential. We have spent the first few chapters of cosmic history enamored by the fire, but fire is a consumer. Every star that has ever graced the night sky is a factory of depletion, converting the finite reservoir of primordial hydrogen into heavier, colder elements. This is the great irony of the universe we inhabit. The very process that creates the light also ensures its eventual extinction. We are living in a temporary surplus, a brief moment of energy abundance that is being rapidly liquidated by the laws of thermodynamics. When we look out at the clusters of galaxies today, we are witnessing the final, frantic output of a system that is running out of fuel. The transition from the age of light to the age of shadows is not a sudden collapse, but a long, agonizing decline into the degenerate era, where the only things left are the cold cinders of stars and the ghosts of the structures they once sustained. To understand the emotional weight of this transition, one must first confront the sheer stubbornness of the nothing that awaits us. We are currently in a phase of cosmic history where matter is still organized into recognizable luminous forms, but as the gas clouds that feed star formation are depleted or blown away by the expansion, the rate of stellar birth across the cosmos is plummeting. We have already passed the peak of star formation. The universe reached its cosmic noon billions of years ago. We are now in the long, slow afternoon, watching the shadows lengthen across the intergalactic void. The stars we see tonight are the survivors, but they are also the last of their kind. There will be no second act, no grand replenishment of the cosmic gas. The expansion of space is carrying the unspent fuel away into unreachable distances, ensuring that most of the matter in the universe will never have the chance to become a star. It will remain as cold, lonely dust, drifting forever in the growing dark. The first victims of this cosmic exhaustion are the massive stars, the blue giants that burn with a fierce, unstable intensity. They are the celebrities of the cosmos, visible from across millions of light years, but they are also the most short-lived. They consume their hydrogen with a reckless greed, lasting only a few million years before exploding in spectacular supernovae. These explosions are the only thing that can temporarily outshine a galaxy, but they are also the sound of a door being slammed shut. When a massive star dies, it leaves behind a neutron star or a black hole, objects that are defined by their density and their silence. They no longer contribute to the warmth of the universe, they only consume it, or hoard it. As the blue giants disappear, the galaxies begin to lose their vibrancy, shifting from the brilliant white and blue of youth to the dim, tired orange and red of a middle-aged population. We are currently watching the universe change its color palette. The vibrant hues of active star-forming regions, the glowing pinks of hydrogen and the electric blues of young clusters, are being replaced by the muted, dusty tones of old age. This is the reddening of the universe, a process that mirrors the redshift of expansion but is far more permanent. It is the color of a fire that has stopped leaping and has settled into a bed of glowing coals. In our own Milky Way, we can see the signs. The great spiral arms, once the nurseries of countless suns, are becoming quieter. The dust is settling. The atmosphere of the galaxy is becoming heavy with the metallic ash of previous generations of stars. We are living in a second-hand universe, built from the debris of things that have already lived and died. As the larger stars vanish, the burden of lighting the universe falls to the red dwarfs, tiny, dim, incredibly efficient stars that can burn for trillions of years. These are the marathon runners of the cosmos. A red dwarf like Proxima Centauri will still be shining long after the sun has become a cold lump of carbon. But even these stars provide very little comfort. They are so dim that they are invisible to the naked eye, even from a short distance. They emit a faint, ruddy glow, providing just enough light to see the surrounding void, but not enough to warm it. To live in a universe of red dwarfs is to live in a perpetual twilight, where the sky is never truly dark but never truly bright. It is a world of shadows, where the heat of the Big Bang has dissipated, and the only source of energy is the slow, agonizing fusion of the last bits of hydrogen. This is the beginning of the degenerate era, a period that will last for a timescale so vast it makes the current age of the universe look like a mathematical rounding error. During this time, the island universes we discussed will be populated almost entirely by dead stellar remnants. The most common will be white dwarfs, the cooling hearts of stars like our sun. A white dwarf is a bizarre object, a sphere the size of Earth but with the mass of a star, held up not by the heat of fusion, but by the degenerate pressure of its own electrons. It is essentially a giant diamond, or a mass of metallic carbon, cooling slowly over billions of years. Initially, it shines with a brilliant white light, but because it has no internal furnace, it is destined to fade. It will go from white to yellow, then orange, then red, and finally, it will become a black dwarf. The black dwarf is the ultimate symbol of cosmic isolation. It is a star that has completely lost its identity as a source of light. It is a cold, dark, solid mass, invisible to any telescope, drifting through a galaxy that has long since stopped being a home. Because white dwarfs take so long to cool, the universe is currently too young for any black dwarfs to exist. They are the ghosts of the future, the inevitable destination of almost every star we see. Imagine a galaxy billions of years from now filled with these dark, silent spheres. They will be the majority of the matter, yet they will contribute nothing to the sky. The galaxy will be a graveyard of trillion-year-old embers, cold to the touch and forgotten by the light. The psychological horror of the black dwarf lies in its permanence. Once a star reaches this state, It is effectively removed from the cycle of life and death. It will never explode, it will never be reborn, and it will never shine again. It is a terminal state of matter. We are used to the idea that energy is conserved, that things change from one form to another. But in the black dwarf, we see the trapping of energy. All the light and heat that the star once possessed has been radiated away into the infinite void, and what remains is a cold, dead husk that will endure for as long as matter itself exists. It is the universe's way of saying, done. It is the final punctuation mark at the end of a very long sentence. As the black dwarfs accumulate, the structure of the galaxies themselves begins to change. Without the outward pressure of starlight and the heat of active gas, the galaxies become collisionless systems of dark objects. Gravity becomes the only remaining architect. Over unimaginable stretches of time, these dead stars will interact with each other in a process known as dynamical relaxation. In a typical galaxy, most of these objects will eventually be flung out into the intergalactic void through gravitational slingshot effects. The others will slowly lose energy and spiral inward, eventually being consumed by the supermassive black hole at the center of the galaxy. The islands are being dismantled from within. The very places we call home are being dissolved, their components scattered into the abyss or swallowed by the dark. This scattering is the ultimate expression of cosmic dilution. Even the idea of a galaxy is a temporary phenomenon. It is a gravitational huddle, a group of objects trying to stay together in a universe that wants them apart. But the random walks of gravity and the relentless expansion of space will eventually break the huddle. Each black dwarf, each neutron star, each lonely planet will eventually find itself alone in the dark, separated from its nearest neighbor by light years, then millions of light years, then billions. The connection we feel to the Milky Way is a fleeting accident of our time. In the long run, every object is its own island, destined for total, unreachable isolation. We must also consider the fate of the planets. We think of planets as the stage for life, but on this timescale, they are just minor debris. Long before the stars become black dwarfs, the planets will have been frozen solid, their atmospheres collapsed into ice, their oceans turned to stone. They will drift with their dead suns for a while, but eventually they too will be stripped away by the gravitational tug of passing stars. There will be trillions of rogue planets drifting in the intergalactic dark, worlds that once had suns, perhaps even once had life, but are now nothing more than cold, dark rocks. They are the silent witnesses to the era of light, wandering through a universe that no longer has a place for them. The transition to the black hole era marks the moment when the last of these solid, light-producing objects has failed. By this time, the universe is so expanded and so cold that the very concept of heat has lost its meaning. The only things with any real presence in the cosmos are the black holes. These are the apex predators of the universe, the regions where gravity has won so completely that even light cannot escape. During the preceding eras, black holes were just one part of the galactic ecosystem, but in the end, they are the only things that endure. They are the ultimate reservoirs of the universe's matter and energy. There is an unsettling beauty to a universe dominated by black holes. They are the most perfect objects in existence, simple, elegant, and utterly indifferent. They are defined only by their mass, their spin, and their charge. Everything else, the history of the stars they swallowed, the planets they crushed, the civilizations they might have extinguished, is erased. They are the ultimate censors of the cosmos. In the black hole era, the universe is a vast, empty gallery of these dark sculptures, each one separated from the next by distances so vast that light itself would die of old age before it could travel between them. But even these titans are not eternal. Stephen Hawking revealed that black holes are not perfectly black. They emit a faint, ghostly radiation. This Hawking radiation is a consequence of quantum mechanics at the edge of the event horizon. It is a microscopic leak, a tiny bleeding of energy from the black hole into the vacuum. For a black hole with the mass of the sun, this process is so slow that it would take $10 years to evaporate. For the supermassive black holes at the centers of galaxies, the timescale is even more absurd, $10 years. This is the Google era, a number so large that the human brain cannot distinguish it from infinity. And yet on a cosmic scale, $10 is just another number. The evaporation of black holes is the final stage of the universe's liquidation. It is the process by which even the most concentrated forms of matter are returned to the vacuum. As a black hole evaporates, it slowly loses mass. As it gets smaller, the rate of evaporation increases. In its final moments, a black hole that has lasted for trillions of years will vanish in a brief, brilliant flash of gamma rays, a final, tiny scream in a dark that is too large to hear it. This is the end of structure. This is the moment when the universe finally runs out of places. The psychological impact of these timescales is a form of chronophobia, the fear of time itself. We are used to thinking of time as a medium for progress, for growth, for evolution. But in the long-term history of the universe, time is a medium for erosion. It is the solvent that dissolves all things. The trillions upon trillions of years of the black hole era are not lived by anything. They are just a slow, silent countdown to zero. The universe is a clock that is winding down, and the spaces between the ticks are getting longer and longer. By the time we reach the end of the black hole era, the universe is $10 years old, and it has been dark for almost all of that time. The age of light was just a tiny microscopic spark at the very beginning, a flicker that was over before the universe even realized it had started. We must pause here to consider a disturbing possibility. What if even the dead matter, the black dwarfs and the rogue planets, doesn't last that long? Many theories of particle physics suggest that the proton, the fundamental building block of every atom in your body and every star in the sky, is not truly stable. It might have a half-life of around $10 years. This is proton decay. If this is true, then the very fabric of matter is on a timer. The black dwarfs would not just stay as cold diamonds forever. They would slowly, atom by atom, dissolve into radiation. The solid ground would literally evaporate. The rogue planets would vanish. The dead suns would disappear. The universe would be purged of all solid things, leaving only a thin, cold soup of electrons, positrons, and photons. This is the revelation. The void is not just pushing things apart, it is dissolving them from the inside out. Matter itself is a temporary arrangement of energy, a knot in the field that is eventually untied. We are made of stuff that has an expiration date. If proton decay is real, then the universe's ultimate state is not a collection of cold rocks in a dark room. It is a room that has been emptied of everything, including the rocks. It is a vacuum filled only with the faint, red-shifting echoes of the things that used to be. The silence becomes absolute because there is nothing left to vibrate. The dark becomes total because there is nothing left to reflect. The existential tension now reaches a new height. We are not just losing our neighbors, the other galaxies. We are losing ourselves, the very matter we are composed of. The story of the universe is a story of a disappearing act. First, the light goes. Then the connections go. Then the structures go. And finally, the substance goes. We are left with a reality that is essentially pure space. A stage with no actors, no props, and eventually, no audience. This is the destination of the path we are on. This is the nothing that was hiding behind the stars all along. Why does this feel so unsettling? Because we are programmed by evolution to seek out and preserve structure. We value things. We value being. But the universe seems to value process, and that process is one of decay. We are a brief, beautiful mistake in a system that is settling into its final empty state. The beyond the universe perspective is about acknowledging this without falling into despair. It is about seeing the nothingness as the true canvas of reality, and the somethingness as the brief, brilliant paint that was applied to it. The paint is drying, cracking, and falling off, but the canvas remains. Let us return to the psychological consequences of this understanding. When we look at the night sky now, we are looking at a countdown. Every star is a unit of energy that will eventually be lost. Every galaxy is a collection of information that will eventually be erased. We are the witnesses of a liquidation sale where everything must go, including the store itself. The sense of cosmic isolation is no longer just about the distance between us and Andromeda. It is about the distance between our era and the eternal silence that follows. We are isolated in time, trapped in a brief window of habitability between two infinities of darkness. The unease is rooted in the realization that we are the only ones who care. The universe does not mourn its own death. The dark energy that accelerates the expansion does not have a plan. The entropy that dissolves the stars is just a statistical necessity. The universe is a machine with no operator, a program with no goal other than its own termination. We are the bugs in the system that have gained enough complexity to realize that the system is shutting down. We are the accidental self-awareness of a dying giant. As we move further into the degenerate era, the atmosphere of our briefing becomes increasingly heavy. We are moving away from the physics of how things work and into the physics of how things stop working. We are looking at the unraveling of the cosmic tapestry. We see the threads being pulled out one by one. The stars are the first threads. The galaxies are the second. Matter is the third. What remains is just the space-time itself, the four-dimensional fabric that is being stretched thinner and thinner by the relentless pressure of dark energy. Consider the limits of memory. If there were an immortal observer who could watch the universe from beginning to end, what would they remember? They would see the Big Bang, a brief, violent flash. They would see the stars form and shine for a few trillion years, and then they would spend the next $10 years watching nothing. In the grand timeline of the universe, the era of life and light is so small it is statistically invisible. The universe is essentially a dark, empty void that happened to have a small bright accident at the very beginning. Memory, history, and meaning are all products of that accident. They are local phenomena, with no standing in the universal court. This is the unsettling truth that we have been building toward. We are trying to find meaning in a system that is overwhelmingly composed of meaninglessness. The voids, the dark energy, the black holes, these are the dominant features of the cosmos, and they have no story to tell. They just are. They are the background noise of reality, and that noise is getting louder as the signal of the stars fades. We are the signal, and we are being drowned out. But there is another layer to this mystery, one that suggests the nothingness might be even more unstable than we thought. This is the hypothesis of vacuum decay. In quantum field theory, the vacuum is the state of lowest energy. But what if our vacuum is not the absolute lowest? What if it is a false vacuum, a state that is stable for now, but could theoretically drop to a lower energy state? If this were to happen, it would start at a single point and expand at the speed of light as a bubble of true vacuum. Inside this bubble, the laws of physics would be completely different. Atoms might not be able to exist. Gravity might behave differently. Matter as we know it would be instantly shredded. Vacuum decay is the ultimate cosmic reset. It is a wave of destruction that moves at the speed of light, meaning you would never see it coming. One moment, the universe is as it is. The next, you and everything you have ever known are replaced by a new alien reality. While this is highly speculative, it adds to the sense of existential tension. It suggests that the nothing we are so afraid of might not even be the final form. There might be a deeper, even more fundamental nothing waiting to take its place. We are living on a thin crust of stability over an infinite abyss of potential chaos. This brings us back to the Hubble tension and the possibility that our cosmological model is incomplete. If the expansion of the universe is accelerating faster than we thought, perhaps it is because the vacuum is already starting to change. Perhaps the rules are shifting as the density drops. We are trying to measure a system that is in the middle of a phase transition. We are like scientists on a piece of ice that is melting, trying to calculate the final shape of the water. The unsettling part is not the math. It's the realization that the ground is literally changing under our feet. The beyond the universe perspective requires us to look at this without flinching. We are not here to provide comfort, but to provide clarity. The clarity of the void, the clarity of the end. We see the universe for what it is, a process of dilution, a process of erasure. We see the beauty of the stars as the beauty of a dying ember. We see the grandeur of the galaxies as the grandeur of a sinking ship. And we see ourselves as the brief, improbable observers of this magnificent tragedy. By now, the scale has become so large that it loops back around and becomes personal. The cosmic isolation we discussed at the beginning is now inside us. It is in the atoms that will eventually decay. It is in the heat that will eventually dissipate. We are not just in the universe. We are the universe. And therefore, we are part of its long-term fate. The silence that awaits the cosmos is the same silence that awaits us. The emptiness of the Buddha's void is a mirror of the emptiness that will eventually consume all matter. But we are still here. We are still in the golden window. The light is still reaching our eyes. The stars are still burning. The atoms are still holding together. We have the incredible privilege of being able to contemplate our own extinction. We are the only part of the universe that can feel unsettled by the dark. And in that feeling, there is a kind of power. We are the ones who give the universe a story, even if that story is one of loss. We are the ones who turn the nothing into something by the mere act of naming it. The final eras now begin to come into view. A universe after the black holes are gone, where only single photons and electrons drift through an infinite expanding sea of nothingness. Beyond heat death, even recurrence becomes a disturbing possibility. The idea that given enough time, every state of reality may return again, but the image that remains is still the same. Fading stars, growing voids, and a universe becoming less connected, less warm, and less there. And we are the last ones to see the light before it goes. The unsettling part is not the distance, it is what the distance is doing. It is the realization that the nothingness is not just space. It is a predator. It is eating the light, eating the matter, and eating the time. We are the prey, and we are running out of places to hide. The beyond is not a destination. It is the closing of the trap. And as we continue our descent, we will see just how deep that trap goes. The stars are getting dimmer, and the silence is getting louder. We are moving into the heart of the nothing, where every remaining structure begins to lose its meaning. This is the story of the end of the universe, told from the brief moment when there is still enough light to tell it. Consider the scale of numbers once more. If the current age of the universe is a single grain of sand, the age of the black hole era is a desert that covers the entire planet. We are living at the very first moment of the very first day. The abundance we see is a temporary fluke of the morning. The reality of the universe is the long, dark night that follows. We are the dawn creatures, and we are terrified of the dusk. But the dusk is inevitable. The shadows are part of the architecture. We often talk about cosmic voids as if they were empty rooms. But imagine being in a room that is not just empty, but is also getting bigger every second. The walls are moving away from you. The furniture is moving away from you. Eventually, the floor itself starts to stretch. You are left suspended in a space that has no coordinates. This is the reality of the future universe. It is a space that has lost its shape. It is a space that has become a pure, featureless expanse. This loss of shape is the ultimate isolation. We define ourselves by our surroundings, by the things we can touch, the places we can go, the people we can see. But in the future universe, there will be no surroundings. There will be nothing to touch, nowhere to go, and no one to see. There will only be you, or whatever remains of you, and the infinite, expanding nothing. This is the logical conclusion of the cosmic isolation we have been tracking. It is the total dissolution of the other. Why does the universe do this? Why is it so determined to erase itself? Perhaps because being is a state of high tension, and the universe wants to relax. Matter is a disturbance in the field. Energy is a gradient that wants to be leveled. Life is a struggle against the inevitable flow of entropy. The nothingness is the state of perfect relaxation. It is the state where there are no tensions, no gradients, and no struggles. It is the state of perfect peace. But to a human mind, that peace looks like death. We are the tension. We are the gradient. We are the struggle. And because we are those things, we find the nothingness horrifying. We are the noise that doesn't want to be silenced. But the silence is the natural state. We are the anomaly. This is the doubt that we must confront, that our entire existence, and the existence of everything we love, is a temporary disturbance in a vast, silent ocean that just wants to be still again. As we prepare for the next layer of our investigation, we must leave behind the idea of progress. There is no up in the universe. There is no forward other than toward the dark. This perspective is a downward descent. We are going deeper into the layers of reality, and each layer is emptier than the one before. We are looking for the bottom, but there may not be one. There may only be an infinite stretching of the nothing. The existential tension is now at its peak. We have seen the death of the stars, the evaporation of the black holes, the decay of the protons, and the stretching of the vacuum. We have seen that the universe is a machine for the erasure of itself. We are left with a single haunting question. Why? Why did it bother to start? Why did it create the stars and the galaxies just to take them away? Why did it create us just to let us watch the lights go out? Perhaps there is no why. Perhaps the why is just another thing that we as humans try to impose on a system that doesn't have one. The universe is just a process, and we are part of that process. The tragedy we feel is our own creation. The unsettling truth is that the universe is not mean or cruel. It is just indifferent, and indifference is far more terrifying than malice. Malice implies that you are important enough to be hated. Indifference implies that you don't matter at all. We are moving into the dark era now. The lights have faded. The black holes have evaporated. The protons have decayed. The universe is a vast, cold sea of radiation and subatomic particles, stretched so thin that they almost never interact. Each particle is separated from the next by quadrillions of light years. This is the end of the story. This is the heat death. This is the final state of maximum entropy, and it will last forever. But is forever really the end? In the deepest silence, even consciousness becomes a question, a fluctuation, a memory, perhaps a mind briefly assembled by chance in the middle of the dark. The possibility is not comforting. It suggests that even thought itself may become another temporary disturbance in the infinite vacuum. The stars are gone. The galaxies are gone. The atoms are gone. There is only the expansion. There is only the nothing. There is only the realization that you have been watching the most magnificent show in history, and the lights have just been turned off. The theater is empty, the actors are gone, and you are alone in the silence. This is the truth of the cosmos. This is the reality of the beyond. This is where the light fails and the silence begins. The end is not the end of the question. It is only the next layer of the silence. The last spark of the last black hole has finally sputtered into the void, and with it the final ledger of the material universe is effectively closed. We have crossed the threshold into the dark era, a period of existence so profound in its emptiness that the very word existence begins to lose its linguistic anchor. If the preceding eras, the age of stars and the age of black holes, were the chapters of a book, the dark era is the infinite, blank white space that follows the final period. The universe is no longer a place of objects, events, or even shadows. It has become a realm of ultra-diluted radiation and lone subatomic particles, scattered so thin across the expanding fabric of spacetime that the concept of a neighbor has vanished forever. We are looking at a reality where the density of matter is so low that a single electron might inhabit a volume of space larger than the entire observable universe of our own time. This is the ultimate silence, the state of maximum entropy, the final destination toward which every galaxy, every sun, and every human thought has been drifting since the first microsecond of the Big Bang. In this near-infinite landscape of nothingness, the expansion of space continues unabated. Dark energy, the mysterious pressure that once tore galaxies apart, is now the only architect left. It continues to create more space where there was already too much, stretching the few remaining photons to wavelengths so long they are effectively flat. The universe is no longer cooling in any sense that we would recognize, because there is no heat left to lose. It has reached the temperature of the vacuum itself, a state of absolute thermal equilibrium. In this frozen sea, time itself begins to feel like an illusion. Without change, without the birth or death of stars, without the collision of atoms, what is time? It becomes a coordinate without a marker, a river without a current. We are witnessing the end of events, the moment when the cosmic clock keeps ticking, but there is nothing left to record the passage of the seconds. The psychological weight of this era is found in the total dissolution of structure. We are used to a universe of hierarchy, planets orbiting stars, stars clustering in galaxies, galaxies forming webs. But in the dark era, the hierarchy is shattered. The only residents are isolated positrons, electrons, and neutrinos, each one trapped in its own cosmic event horizon. Because of the accelerating expansion, these particles are moving away from each other faster than their own light can travel. Each particle is, for all intents and purposes, the only thing in its own universe. It can never see another particle, never interact with another field, never contribute to any form of complexity. It is the ultimate solitary confinement, played out on a scale that lasts for trillions of times longer than the age of the stars. Consider the lone photon, a survivor of a star that died $10 years ago. It has been traveling through the dark for an eternity, its energy sapped by the constant stretching of the space it traverses. It is now a radio wave of such low frequency that it carries almost no information. It will never hit an eye. It will never be absorbed by an atom. It is a ghost in a graveyard, a flicker of memory from a time when the universe was full. This is the fate of all light. It doesn't disappear, it just becomes so thin and so weak that it merges with the background silence. The universe is not a container that is being emptied. It is a container that is being stretched until the contents are no longer visible. This transition into the dark era forces us to confront the Hubble tension once more, but from a more haunting perspective. Our current struggle to measure the expansion rate, the discrepancy between the early and late universe, suggests that our understanding of dark energy might be fundamentally flawed. If dark energy is not a constant, if it evolves as the universe empties out, the dark era might be even more violent than the heat death suggests. If the pressure of the vacuum increases, we could see a big rip, even in this empty state, where the very fabric of spacetime is shredded into a chaotic foam of quantum fluctuations. The silence we imagine might actually be a state of extreme microscopic turbulence, where the nothingness is tearing at its own foundations. The unsettling truth is that we are trying to predict the end of a movie when we don't even understand the camera. Even in this total dark, the laws of physics suggest that something might still happen, though on timescales that defy human sanity. One of the most bizarre possibilities is the formation of positronium atoms. In the ultra-thin soup of the dark era, an occasional electron and positron moving at glacial speeds, might find each other. They would begin a slow, ghostly dance, orbiting one another across distances larger than our current solar system. This atom of pure energy and anti-energy is a phantom of the vacuum. They would orbit for billions of years, slowly spiraling inward, until they finally touch and annihilate in a tiny final flash of gamma radiation. This is the only event left in the universe, the slow, lonely death of a particle that has spent an eternity searching for its opposite. These events are so rare and so far apart that the universe is effectively dead. To an observer, the dark era is a total featureless black. The beyond the universe perspective reveals that the golden window we inhabit, the era where we can see the stars and wonder about the beginning, is a statistical anomaly of impossible rarity. We are like people who have been born in the first millisecond of a firework explosion, thinking the bright sparks are the permanent state of the world. We don't realize that the explosion is almost over, and that the long, cold, silent smoke is the reality that lasts forever. The abundance we see is a trick of the early game. The absence is the true nature of the system. Why does the mind recoil from this? Why does the idea of an empty, infinite future feel like a personal threat? It is because we are creatures of connection. Our brains are designed to find patterns, to build structures, and to maintain links. The universe's plan for total isolation is the literal antithesis of everything that makes us human. We are standing on the deck of a ship called structure, watching the ocean of entropy rise to meet us. And as we look into the dark era, we see that the ocean doesn't just drown the ship, it dissolves it. It breaks the wood into molecules, and the molecules into atoms, and the atoms into radiation, until there is no ship left to remember. This leads us to the most disturbing philosophical problem in all of cosmology, the Boltzmann brain. In a universe that lasts for $10 years, a number so large it cannot be written in standard notation, the laws of probability take on a terrifying new dimension. According to thermodynamics, if you wait long enough, even the most improbable things will happen through random quantum fluctuations. The same forces that once created the Big Bang could, in theory, spontaneously assemble a fully functioning human brain, complete with memories, perceptions, and a sense of self, out of the vacuum of the dark era. For one brief second, a consciousness would appear in the total dark, perceive its own existence, and then instantly vanish as the fluctuation subsides. The Boltzmann brain paradox suggests that if the universe is infinite and moves toward maximum entropy, then you are more likely to be a random fluctuation in the dark than a biological creature on a real planet. How do you know that the room you are sitting in, the memories of your childhood, and the very voice you are hearing now are not just a momentary glitch in the nothingness of the far future? This idea is the ultimate existential tension. It suggests that reality itself is a form of noise, and that the only thing more certain than the void is the fact that the void can dream. We are living in a reality that is so empty, it might be forced to hallucinate us just to pass the time. But let us step back from the edge of that madness and look at the physical reality of the nothingness again. The vacuum of space is not just a lack of things, it is a field of potential. The zero-point energy is always there, a vibrating floor beneath the nothing. As the universe expands and the density of matter drops to zero, this floor becomes the only thing left. We are witnessing the victory of the field. The objects were just temporary ripples on the surface of the field, and now the surface is becoming smooth again. The beyond is the state where the field is at rest. It is a peace that is so absolute, it is indistinguishable from non-existence. The unsettling part of the dark era is not the lack of light, but the lack of other. In our world, we are defined by our relationships to things outside of ourselves. Gravity pulls us to the earth. Light allows us to see the stars. Oxygen allows us to breathe. But in the dark era, there is no outside. There is no earth, no sun, no other. There is only the expansion, which is an internal property of space itself. The universe has turned inward. It has become a closed system that is perfectly content to be empty. It has no need for observers, no need for history, and no need for us. This is the revelation that science has been leading us toward, that the universe is not a home, but a process of divestment. We are being slowly stripped of our surroundings. First, we lose the distant galaxies. Then, we lose the local group. Then, we lose the stars. Then, we lose the atoms. We are being moved into a state of pure isolation, where the only thing left to contemplate is the vacuum itself. The Beyond the Universe journey is a map of this stripping down. It is a cinematic briefing on the architecture of the end. And yet, the Hubble tension and other anomalies remind us that we might be missing a crucial part of the story. If our current model of the universe, the lambda CDM model, is incomplete, then the dark era might not be the end. There are theories of cyclic universes, where the expansion eventually stops and reverses, or where the heat death leads to a new Big Bang through a process called conformal cyclic cosmology. In this view, the nothingness is not a final destination but a reset button. The total erasure of information is necessary for the next universe to begin with a clean slate, but this hope is also unsettling. It suggests that we are part of an infinite loop of creation and destruction, where everything we have ever achieved will be forgotten and rewritten an infinite number of times. It turns our golden window into a recurring nightmare. If the universe is a machine that resets itself, then the emptiness we see in the future is just the waiting room for the next accident. We are caught in a cycle of something and nothing, and neither state is permanent. The beyond is the space between the breaths of a cosmic giant. Let us consider the atmosphere of the dark era one more time. Imagine you are drifting in that total blackness. $10 years from now, you have no body, no senses, no time. You are just a point of awareness. You look out and you see nothing. No matter how far you travel, no matter how long you wait, the view never changes. The nothing is perfectly uniform, perfectly dark, and perfectly cold. This is the silence of the galaxies taken to its logical conclusion. It is a silence that has swallowed the very idea of sound. This is the existential consequence of understanding cosmic scale. It makes our current lives feel not just small, but thin. We are like a single frame in a movie that is 1 billion years long, and most of the frames are just black. We are the interference on a screen that wants to be blank. The unsettling part is that the screen is winning. The black frames are becoming more frequent. The interference is getting weaker, and soon the movie will be over. But why do we find this so difficult to accept? Perhaps because we have been raised on a diet of cosmic significance. We want to believe that the universe is for something. We want to believe that the beyond is a place of mystery and wonder. But the science tells us that the beyond is just a place of less. It is a place where the variables go to zero. It is a place where the functions stop. The universe is a grand simplification, a reduction of all complexity into a single, flat, dark line. The deceptive beauty of the stars was our first clue that we were being lied to. The stars look like a crowd, but they are an exception. The cosmic voids were our second clue, showing us that the nothing is the dominant structure. The accelerated expansion was our third clue, showing us that the nothing is active and aggressive. And now, the dark era is the final revelation. It is the moment where the nothing finally takes off its mask and shows us its true face. And its face is ours, reflected in a dark mirror that has no silvering. We are the nothing that has gained the ability to feel afraid of itself. We are the vacuum that has become self-aware. This is the psychological shock of living in the brief era where the universe is still visible. We are the only ones who can see the transition. We are the ones who have to carry the knowledge of the end into the beginning. We are the messengers of the silence, standing in the middle of a crowded room, shouting a truth that no one wants to hear. The party is almost over, and there is no one else coming. As the briefing moves toward its final descent, the tension begins to harden into resolution. We are no longer asking if the universe will end, but what it means that it will. We are no longer looking for an escape from the dark, but a way to inhabit it. The beyond the universe perspective is about finding a kind of existential dignity in the face of the infinite. It is about looking at the nothingness and saying, I see you. What remains ahead is no longer discovery, but descent. The ultimate end now comes into view, the possibility that even space-time itself may cease to behave like a place. Poincaré recurrence introduces an even stranger possibility that in an infinite amount of time, you may be here again, facing the same words, the same dread, and the same dark. And the question becomes whether any meaning can survive inside an infinite repetition of a temporary accident. But before we go there, we must acknowledge the silence of the $10 years that follow the stars, the silence of the black dwarfs and the evaporating black holes, the silence of the lone electrons drifting in the dark. This is the true sound of the universe. The stars were just a brief, noisy interruption. The nothing was here first, and it will be here last, and it is much, much larger than we ever imagined. The lights are almost gone, and the temperature is dropping toward absolute zero. We are moving into the final layer, where the beyond becomes the only. This is the story of the universe's ultimate fate, and we are the only witnesses left. This is beyond the universe, and the silence is beautiful in its own terrifying way. Consider the scale of numbers one final time. If the time that stars shine is a single drop of water, the time that the universe spends in the dark era is an ocean that covers 1 trillion planets. We are living in the drop. We are trying to understand the ocean from within the drop, but the drop is evaporating, and the ocean is all that remains. The unsettling part is not the size of the ocean, but the fact that it is empty. Why is the ocean empty? Because the universe is a machine for the production of entropy. Every event, every star, every thought is just a way of turning useful energy into useless heat. And once the energy is all useless, the machine stops. The dark era is the state of maximum uselessness. It is the state where the universe has finally achieved its goal of doing nothing forever. We are the useful part of the machine, but we are also the part that is being used up. This realization changes the meaning of connection. In a universe of total isolation, the brief connections we have now are not just nice, they are impossible. They are a defiance of the cosmic law. The fact that you can hear my voice, that we can share these ideas, that we can look at the same stars, this is a miracle of proximity that will never be repeated. We are the anomaly that has found a way to talk to itself, and that is something worth holding on to, even as the dark closes in. The atmosphere of the journey has shifted into a strange, reflective peace. The dread has been processed. The scale has been measured. The nothingness has been mapped. We are standing on the edge of the final abyss, and we are not afraid. We are just curious. We want to see what happens next. We want to see if the beyond has any more secrets to tell. The unease has not vanished. It has hardened into philosophical clarity. We see the universe for what it is, a beautiful, tragic, temporary accident. We see the nothingness for what it is, the eternal, silent backdrop. And we see ourselves for what we are, the brief, brilliant flash that bridges the two. The flash is almost over, but while it lasted, it saw everything. Let us look at the cosmic voids one more time. They are not holes in the universe. They are the shape of the future. They are the pioneer species of the vacuum, showing the rest of the cosmos how to be empty. And as they grow and merge, they are slowly turning the entire universe into a single, giant void. This is the fate of structure, to be consumed by the absence. But the absence is not a vacuum of meaning. It is a vacuum of noise. Perhaps in the total silence of the dark era, the universe finally understands itself. Perhaps the heat death is not a death at all, but a state of perfect understanding, where all the equations have been solved and all the variables have reached their final values. The universe is no longer searching, it has found. This is the impression the silence leaves behind. The universe is not losing its way, it is arriving at a state of perfect rest, and we are the ones unlucky enough, or privileged enough, to understand what that arrival means. The existential tension has become something colder, a final cosmic briefing. We are the investigators who have found the truth, and the truth is that the universe is much more empty than we thought, but that emptiness is also much more full of potential than we ever imagined. The silence is not calling because it wants to be heard. It is simply becoming impossible to ignore. The final realization now begins to take shape. The end of the universe may not be an ending in the human sense, but a transition into something colder, stranger, and almost impossible to interpret. Heat death may be the last visible chapter, or it may be only a phase transition into a silence beyond observation. The dark era is only the beginning of the long night. Whatever light remains after that will not be stellar, biological, or warm. It will be the faint residue of a universe remembering that it once burned. The finality of the dark era is a staggering concept, because it represents the first time in cosmic history when the rate of change is effectively zero. From the first trillionth of a second during inflation to the slow cooling of white dwarfs, the universe has always been becoming something else. It has been a state of flux, but in the dark era, the becoming stops. The universe just is. This stasis is the ultimate challenge to our understanding of causality. If nothing happens, then cause and effect become meaningless. The universe becomes a static object in 4 dimensions, a block of space-time that is completely occupied by a single, unchanging state of maximum entropy. This block universe is the final frozen monument to the history of matter. Within this monument, the limits of memory become a physical boundary. If an intelligence were to exist in this era, it would have no past to refer to. The information required to reconstruct the era of stars would have been long since erased by the Hawking radiation of black holes and the decay of protons. The universe is a clean slate that has been wiped so many times that even the scratches on the surface have been smoothed out. This total loss of history is the most profound form of isolation. It is not just that we are separated from other galaxies in space, we are separated from our own past in time. The universe has forgotten its own birth. The unsettling realization here is that we are currently the memory of the universe. We are the part of the system that is recording the data, but the storage medium is failing. The stars are burning out, the planets are crumbling, and the brains that hold the information are destined to dissolve. The universe is a book that is being written in ink that fades as soon as it touches the page. We are trying to read the first chapter while the last one is already being erased. This perspective is an attempt to save a few lines of that story before the page goes blank forever. This brings us to the psychological consequences of the vast timescales involved. If the era of life is a billionth of the total life of the universe, then why does it feel so significant to us? It is because we are local observers. Our sense of scale is calibrated to the biological world, not the cosmic one. To a star, a human life is a flash of lightning. To a galaxy, a star's life is a passing shadow. And to the dark era, the entire history of the galaxies is a microscopic glitch. We are trying to find meaning in a glitch, but perhaps the glitch is the only place where meaning can exist. Meaning requires complexity, and complexity requires a state of non-equilibrium. The nothingness of the future is the death of meaning because it is the death of complexity. We must also consider the possibility that reality behaves differently at these largest scales. Some physicists suggest that on the scale of $10 years, the laws of physics themselves might undergo a kind of fatigue. Perhaps the constants of nature, the speed of light, the strength of gravity, are not as constant as we think. In an empty universe, what does it mean for gravity to exist if there is nothing for it to pull? What does light mean if there is nothing for it to illuminate? The laws of physics were born in the heat and density of the Big Bang. It is entirely possible that they cannot survive the cold and emptiness of the heat death. The universe might not just end, it might unravel its own rules. This unraveling is the ultimate existential tension. It suggests that the beyond is not just a place where the lights are out, but a place where the rules are gone. It is a state of pre-physics, a return to the chaotic potential that preceded the Big Bang. If the laws of physics are tied to the existence of matter and energy, then the disappearance of matter and energy means the disappearance of the laws. We are left with a naked reality, a vacuum that has no properties, no constraints, and no boundaries. This is the true void, not just an empty space, but an empty kind of space. As we look into this true void, we find that our language begins to fail us. We use words like dark, cold, and silent, but these are human terms that imply an observer. In the absence of an observer, the dark era is neither dark nor light. It is just potential. It is a state of pure being without doing. This is the philosophical climax of our journey. We have moved from the deceptive beauty of the night sky to the cold reality of the expansion, and finally to the metaphysical question of what is when there is nothing left to be. This journey has always been about exploring the limits of the cosmos, but here we have reached the limit of exploration itself. We are looking at a horizon that cannot be crossed, a silence that cannot be broken, and a dark that cannot be illuminated. We have followed the light as far as it would take us, and now we must step off into the nothing. The final realization is not one of fear, but of surrender. We are surrendering our need for permanence, our need for significance, and our need for answers. We are accepting the absence as the final, most honest word of the universe. But the story has one more layer. Even in the total nothingness, the random fluctuations of the vacuum never truly stop. According to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, the energy of a field can never be exactly zero. There is always a tiny jitter, a microscopic shivering of the void, and in an infinite amount of time this jitter could, in theory, create anything. It could create a new Big Bang. It could create a new golden window. It could create a new universe. This is the Poincaré recurrence, the idea that every possible state of the universe will eventually recur, an infinite number of times. If this is true, then we are not just a temporary accident. We are a permanent recurrence. You have read these words an infinite number of times before, and you will read them an infinite number of times again, in the far future of a different universe born from the nothingness of our own. This thought is both comforting and terrifying. It provides a kind of immortality, but it is an immortality without memory, without progress, and without end. It is a cosmic loop, a cycle of something and nothing that has no beginning and no goal. Why does the universe cycle? Perhaps because the nothing is unstable. Perhaps the vacuum wants to be full. This is the speculative idea left behind by the silence. The absence is not a final state, but a tensed state. It is like a rubber band that has been stretched to its limit. The further the universe expands, the more tension it builds in the vacuum, until eventually the fabric snaps and the whole process starts over. This would explain the Hubble tension as the sound of the fabric beginning to crack. We are living in the moments before the snap. The atmosphere of the journey has expanded into something almost impossible to hold. We have moved beyond the human, beyond the stellar, and beyond the galactic. We are looking at the pulse of reality, the long, slow breathing of the cosmos as it expands and contracts, lives and dies, remembers and forgets. We are the breath that is currently being exhaled, and we are looking forward to the inhale. This is what the dark era reveals, that the nothingness is not the end of the story, but the midpoint of the cycle. It is the turning point where the universe finishes its descent and begins its climb back toward the light. We are currently on the downward slope, watching the lights fade, but somewhere in the infinite future, the lights are already starting to flicker again. The beyond is not just a destination, it is a gateway. As the briefing moves into its final descent, this philosophical hope follows us into the dark. We have seen the worst that the dark can do, the erasure of matter, the death of stars, the isolation of the mind. And we have found that even in that darkness, there is a seed of something. The universe is too large and too strange to be truly empty. The nothingness is just a different kind of something. The final realization now waits just beyond the last remaining light. The ultimate question of whether anything exists beyond our universe itself. Perhaps our cosmos is only one bubble among countless others. Perhaps reality is stranger than any simulation, or perhaps the deepest truth is not transcendent at all, but simply unreachable. The dark is almost total now, but in that dark, we are finally starting to see. And the final truth waits just over the horizon. The silence between the stars is getting longer. The space between the last remaining signals is getting wider. The redshift is nearly absolute. We are moving into the heart of the nothing, where the only thing left is the beyond. This is the story of the end of the universe, and we are the only ones left to tell it. We have come a long way from the night sky of the first page. We have crossed the voids, survived the death of the sun, and stood at the edge of the black hole, and now we are ready for the end. The existential consequence is here. It is the feeling of being finished, not in the sense of being dead, but in the sense of being complete. We have seen the whole story. We have seen the beginning, the middle, and the end, and we have found that the end is just the beginning seen from a different perspective. The nothingness is the final, perfect answer to the question, what is the universe? It is a nothing that contains everything. Consider the scale of numbers one last time. $10, $10, $10, $10. These are not just numbers. They are time scales of the void. They are the measures of the long, silent night. We have spent our few years of life worrying about days and months, but the universe is playing a much longer game. And in that game, we are the winning move, the brief, brilliant moment of awareness that makes the whole game worth playing. The unease has changed shape. The dread has cooled into wonder, a wonder that is as cold and as deep as the vacuum itself, a wonder that says, I was here, I saw the light, I felt the expansion, and I am not afraid of the dark. This is the beyond the universe mindset. This is the cosmic briefing of the soul. As the final lights fade to black, one thought remains. The universe looks full of stars, but its deeper story is written in the gaps, and the gaps are where the truth is hidden. The nothingness is not your enemy. It is your origin and your destination. It is the home you have been running away from since the day you were born, and it is waiting for you with open arms. The final era is approaching. The dark era is almost over, and the era of the void is about to begin. We are moving into the infinite future, where time has no meaning and space has no end. One last look at the cosmic web. It is gone. The filaments have dissolved. The voids have merged. There is only the uniformity. The universe has reached its state of maximum peace. There are no more wars, no more struggles, no more pain. There is only the stillness. And in that stillness there is a kind of divine clarity. The universe has finally finished its work. It has achieved the nothing. Why did it take so long? Perhaps because something is a hard habit to break. Perhaps because the universe loved the light as much as we did. But eventually, even the universe had to let go. And in that letting go, it found its true self. It found the beyond. And so will we. one final microscopic jitter in the vacuum, a tiny fluctuation, a seed of a new idea, a spark of a new universe. The dark era is not the end. It is the breath between sentences. The next sentence is about to begin, and you are part of it. You have always been part of it. The silence is not empty. It is pregnant with the future. And the future is not bright in the way we understand brightness. It is only possible, and possibility is not the same as comfort. The unsettling truth is that we are the bridge between the two. We are the ones who can see both the light and the dark, and know that they are the same thing. The universe is a single event, seen from a billion different perspectives, and we are the most privileged perspective of all. We are the ones who can look at the end and see the beginning. The phantom flicker of the Boltzmann brain, though a logical outcome of an infinite vacuum, offers no true sanctuary from the crushing reality of the dark era. It is merely a shivering of the ghost in the machine, a momentary and meaningless simulation of a life that was once grounded in the solid world of atoms and heat. As we push even further beyond the scales of $10 years, we enter the territory of the truly impossible, the era of iron stars. If the proton against our current predictions turns out to be stable, the universe does not find peace in the dark. Instead, it enters a phase of quantum tunneling so slow and so alien that the human mind can barely distinguish it from a permanent freeze. Over periods of $10 years, cold stellar remnants, those black dwarfs we once thought were the final state, undergo a bizarre transformation. Through the sheer agonizing persistence of quantum mechanics, the atoms within these cold spheres will tunnel into more stable configurations, slowly turning into pure spheres of iron 56. This is the cold metallic conclusion of matter, a universe populated by silent, frozen iron suns, drifting through a void that has forgotten the meaning of the word hot. These iron stars are the ultimate fossils, the final concentrated remnants of the primordial chaos that once birthed the galaxies. They are cold to the touch of the vacuum, invisible to any eyes that could possibly remain, and so far apart from one another that the concept of a neighbor has been erased for $10 years. Each iron star is an island of absolute stasis, but even this is not the end. The universe is a perfectionist of erasure, on timescales that defy the very notation of mathematics, roughly $10 to $10 years. Even these iron monuments are subject to the law of the void. Through further quantum tunneling, they will eventually collapse into black holes or undergo a final, microscopic decay into radiation. The solid ground of the universe is a temporary illusion, a brief thickening of a soup that is destined to be infinitely thin. We are witnessing the systematic liquidation of reality, where even the most stubborn elements are eventually broken down and scattered into the expansion. The scale of this disintegration brings us to a point of profound existential tension. We have followed the light as it faded, we have watched the stars die, and we have seen the black holes evaporate. Now we are looking at a universe where nothing has finally become the total and absolute rule. But what is this nothing? To the human mind, emptiness is a lack of content, a blank stage. But to the physics of the far future, emptiness is a state of maximum tension. The dark energy that has been driving the expansion for $10 years is still there, pushing at the vacuum, creating more space where there is no longer any matter to fill it. The universe has become a giant, hollowed-out shell, a cathedral of distance where the walls are moving away from the center at speeds that exceed the imagination. In this state of total dilution, the concept of time begins to unravel. We define time by change, by the movement of a clock's hand, the orbit of a planet, the heartbeat of a star. But when there are no more clocks, no more orbits, and no more hearts, what does time mean? If a billion years pass, and not a single particle interacts with another, has any time actually passed? The universe enters a state of temporal stasis, where the arrow of time still points forward, but there is nothing for it to hit. We are left with a four-dimensional block of spacetime that is effectively frozen. The future and the past have become indistinguishable because they are both defined by the same unchanging emptiness. This is the heat death in its most literal form, the death of the very idea of an event. This leads us to the most unsettling revelation of our journey. If the universe spent only a tiny fraction of its life, the first $10 years, in a state of light and structure, and spends the next $10 years in a state of dark emptiness, then what is the universe's true nature? We have always assumed that the universe is a place of something, and that the nothing is just the background, but the numbers suggest the opposite. The universe is a state of nothing that briefly, accidentally and violently flared into something at the very beginning. We are the debris of that accident, a microscopic flash of noise in an eternal silence. Our entire history, from the birth of the first atom to the final thought of the last human, is a rounding error in the cosmic ledger. We are not the protagonists of the story. We are the flickering light of a match that was struck in a dark forest and went out before it could illuminate the first tree. The psychological consequence of this scale is a form of cosmic amnesia. As the galaxies receded and the light redshifted into oblivion, the universe began to lose its memory of itself. Information, which we once believed was conserved, is being stretched until it breaks. The light that carried the image of the Milky Way is now so diluted that it can never be reconstructed. The gravitational waves that recorded the collision of black holes have flattened into nothingness. The universe is erasing its own history, one light year at a time. By the time we reach the heart of the dark era, there is no evidence left that the Big Bang ever occurred. There is no evidence that stars ever shone. The universe has become a clean slate, but there is no one left to write on it. This isolation is not just physical, it is metaphysical. We have reached the limits of observation, the limits of causality, and the limits of meaning. We are standing on the edge of a horizon that cannot be crossed, looking into a dark that cannot be known. This journey has guided us through the descent, but even the guide must now fall silent. For what lies ahead is not a mystery to be solved, but a truth to be endured. The truth is that we are alone, not just in space, but in time. We are the only generation that will ever know the full story of the cosmos, and we are the only ones who will ever mourn its end. Consider the Hubble tension one last time. This lingering discrepancy in our measurements of the expansion rate is the final crack in our understanding. It suggests that the universe is moving toward its dark future even faster than we feared. It is as if the vacuum is impatient to be empty. The nothingness is not waiting for the stars to die. It is actively pulling the rug out from under them. This acceleration is the signature of a reality that is fundamentally unstable, a system that is trying to reach its lowest energy state as quickly as possible. We are living in a temporary fluctuation of a field that is desperate to be still. As we contemplate this instability, we must ask if the nothingness is truly the end. Some theories of the vacuum suggest that the dark era is not a final destination, but a phased transition. In the same way that steam cools into water and water freezes into ice, the vacuum itself might undergo a change. If the dark energy density is not a constant, it could eventually decay, triggering a new Big Bang. This would be a cosmic reset, a moment where the nothing becomes something once again. But this is not a hopeful thought, for in such a reset, everything that makes us us, our history, our atoms, our memories, is completely destroyed. We are not reborn. We are replaced. The new universe would have no memory of the old. It would be a new accident, a new flash of noise and a new silence. This cyclic nature of reality is the ultimate form of cosmic dread. It suggests that we are part of an infinite loop of futility, a series of brief, bright islands in an ocean of eternal dark. We are born, we wonder, we discover the dark, and then we are erased. And then it happens again, and again, and again. There is no progress, no destination, and no meaning beyond the brief moment of the flash. We are trapped in a Poincaré recurrence that has no escape. The beyond is not a place where we find answers. It is a place where we find that the questions themselves are temporary. The atmosphere of our journey has now reached its final heavy state. We have moved from the deceptive beauty of the night sky to the cold reality of the void, and finally to the realization of our own total erasure. The universe is not a home, it is a transit station. The lights are being turned off, the doors are being locked, and the last train has already left the platform. We are the ones left behind, standing in the dark, realizing that there was never any destination to begin with. This perspective is one way to see the architecture of this disappearance without flinching. But why do we feel this unsettling tension? Why does the idea of an empty universe bother us so much? It is because we are the only part of the universe that can feel. We are the empathy of the cosmos, the part that cares about the light and the connection. The universe itself is indifferent. The dark energy doesn't care about the galaxies it shreds. The entropy doesn't care about the stars it cools. The nothingness is not cruel. It is just absolute. Our dread is the sound of a human heart beating against the silence of an infinite machine. This indifference is the most difficult thing to hold in the human mind. We want to believe that our discovery of the cosmic scale is a grand achievement, a moment of triumph for the spirit. But in reality, Our discovery is just a confirmation of our irrelevance. We have mapped the voids and measured the expansion only to find that we are the ones being pushed out. The deeper science progresses, the less emotionally stable the universe feels, because it reveals a reality that is fundamentally unshareable. We are seeing a truth that we were never meant to survive. Let us look one last time at the cosmic voids, those great, growing bubbles of nothingness. They are the true faces of the future. They are the pioneers of the final state, showing us what the entire universe will look like in 10 years. They are not holes in the web. They are the web's destination. As they merge and swallow the last of the filaments, they are creating a universe that is a single, perfect, and infinite void. This is the apotheosis of the nothing. It is the moment when the universe finally achieves its goal of being completely and utterly empty. In that emptiness, there is a kind of terrifying peace. There are no more black holes to evaporate, no more protons to decay, no more iron stars to collapse. There is only the vacuum, stretched to its limit, vibrating with the faint, ghostly energy of the zero-point field. This is the heat death, as a state of perfect rest. The universe has finished its work. It has turned all of its energy into entropy, all of its structure into distance, and all of its light into dark. It has reached equilibrium. And what of us? What of the species that lived in the brief, bright morning of the universe? We are gone. Long before the first iron star formed, long before the last black hole vanished, the memory of humanity was erased from the cosmos. The atoms that once made up our bodies are now scattered across 1 billion light-years of void. The light of our sun has been stretched into radio waves that will never be detected. The history of our civilization is a series of fluctuations in a field that has long since returned to zero. We are the nothing that briefly thought it was something. The journey ends here, at the edge of the absolute. We have seen the scale, the isolation, the expansion, and the end. We have followed the logic of the dark to its final, chilling conclusion, and we have found that the universe is much more absent than we ever dared to imagine. It is a story written in the gaps, a narrative of disappearance, a brief shivering of the void. The stars were just a distraction from the true story, which is the silence that follows them. This is the final realization, that the nothingness is not a threat to reality, it is reality. The somethingness, the stars, the planets, the people, is the exception. We are the brief, beautiful, and terrifying accident that occurred in the middle of an eternal dark. We are the witnesses of a fading light, the observers of a shrinking world, the voices of a silence that is about to become absolute. And as we look into that dark, we realize that we are not looking at an end. We are looking at the universe's final, perfect, and most honest state. The unease you feel as we close this briefing is the correct response to the scale of the truth. It is the feeling of a mind that has been stretched beyond its capacity, a spirit that has seen the blueprint of its own erasure. We are living in a brief window of visibility, a temporary reprieve from the dark. We are the lucky ones who got to see the lights before they went out, but the lights are going, the distances are growing, the silence is coming, and the beyond is all that remains. The deeper the silence grows, the more we realize that even the concept of nothingness was a comfort we afforded ourselves. We imagined the void as a dark room, a place of peace, but the true void of the far future is something far more predatory. It is a state where the very potential for anything to ever exist again has been exhausted. It is not just the absence of light, it is the death of the field. In the absolute limit of time, if the expansion continues to accelerate indefinitely, even the zero-point fluctuations may be stretched so thin that they can no longer spawn the phantom particles of the vacuum. The quantum foam itself might flatten, leaving a reality that is truly, perfectly, and irreversibly dead. This is the big freeze transformed into a big void, a state where the laws of physics have no medium in which to operate. In this ultimate state, the beyond the universe becomes the only reality. The universe as we know it, a place of laws, forces, and matter, was just a temporary phase transition of a much deeper and more terrifying nothingness. We are like ice crystals on a window in winter, marveling at our own complex geometry, while the sun rises and the heat of the house ensures our inevitable melt back into the invisible vapor. The vapor doesn't remember the crystal. The vacuum doesn't remember the star. And the beyond doesn't remember the universe. We are a localized, temporary decrease in entropy in a system that is fundamentally committed to its own dissolution. This is the existential consequence that we must carry with us. Our entire sense of meaning is built on the preservation of information, the continuity of history, and the hope of a future. But the physics of the large-scale universe tells us that none of these things are permanent. We are a biological species evolved to think in decades and centuries, living in a cosmic era that lasts for trillions of years, in a universe that will exist in darkness for $10 years. The disconnect is so vast that it breaks the human spirit. We are trying to find a home in a hurricane of distance. We are trying to find a forever in a briefly. The unsettling part is not that the universe is ending. It is that it seems so eager to do so. The dark energy, the expansion, the entropy, these are not flaws in the design, they are the design. The universe is a machine for the production of silence. It is a system that creates brilliance only to prove how easily it can be extinguished. We are the light bearers of a doomed era, and our light is the only thing that makes the dark look so vast. Without us, the dark would not be dark. It would just be the way things are. We are the ones who invented the horror of the void by being the only ones who can perceive it. Why are we here now? Why do we exist in the only few billion years when the galaxies are still visible, the stars are still burning, and the cosmic microwave background is still detectable? There are trillions of years of dark ahead and trillions of years of chaos behind. We have been dropped into the golden window by a chance so improbable it borders on the miraculous, but it is a miracle without a purpose. We are the accidental witnesses to a fleeting beauty, given just enough intelligence to understand that we are losing it. This is the ultimate cosmic briefing. You are here, it is beautiful, and it is almost over. The revelation is that our isolation is our destiny. We were born on an island in a sea of nothingness, and the sea is rising. The other islands are already disappearing over the horizon. The bridges are gone. The boats are sinking. We are the last generation that will ever be able to see the other. And even for us, the other is just a ghost of light from a distant past. The beyond the universe is the only place left to look. But when we look there, we see only a reflection of our own inevitable end. As we reach the final paragraphs of this long-form briefing, the tension should not resolve into comfort. It should resolve into a heavy clarity. We see the universe for what it is, a magnificent, tragic, and temporary accident. We see the nothingness for what it is, the eternal, silent reality. We see ourselves for what we are, the brief, brilliant awareness that allowed the universe to see itself for one fleeting second before the lights went out. The existential tension is the price we pay for that second of sight. It is the weight of the infinite pressing against the finite. Let us think of the last photon once more. It is billions of light years away from any atom, stretched to a wavelength longer than a galaxy, carrying the last bit of energy from a sun that died $10 years ago. It is the final message of the universe. And what does it say? It says nothing. It carries no information, no heat, no hope. It is just a shivering of the field, a final ripple on the surface of an ocean that is becoming perfectly still. When that photon is stretched into oblivion, the story is truly over. The ledger is balanced. The entropy is maximized. The beyond has won. The final image we leave you with is not one of a dramatic explosion or a grand collapse. It is an image of a total, absolute, and silent stillness. Imagine a space so large that it has no boundaries, so empty that it has no content, and so dark that it has no meaning. This is the future. This is the destination. This is the reality that has been waiting behind the stars all along. We are the ones who dared to look beyond the universe, and in doing so, we have seen the truth of our own disappearance. The universe is not moving toward a climax. It is moving toward a silence that will last forever. The Beyond the Universe channel was a journey of discovery. But every discovery led us deeper into the realization of our own isolation. We have mapped the gaps, measured the voids, and watched the expansion accelerate. We have seen the death of the stars and the evaporation of the black holes. And now, we have stood at the edge of the final dark era. We have seen that the universe's deeper story is written in absence, and that we are just a minor footnote in that story. The silence is the final word. This is the end of the briefing. There are no more questions to ask, because there is no one left to answer them. There are no more distances to measure, because the coordinates have melted. There is only the expansion. There is only the entropy. There is only the dark. And in that dark, there is only the beyond. We were a brief, beautiful mistake. And now, the universe is correcting itself. The night sky is thinning. The stars are fading. The galaxies are receding. The voids are growing. The expansion is accelerating. The entropy is rising. The heat is dying. The dark is coming. The silence is here. The beyond is waiting. The story is over. The movie has ended. The theater is empty. The lights are out. The nothingness is absolute. The absence is total. The isolation is complete. The universe is gone. And the beyond is all there ever was. If you look up tonight, remember that the lights you see are the exceptions. The nothing is the rule. The distance is the destiny. The dark is the destination. We are the ones who saw the light. We are the ones who knew the stars. We are the ones who lived in the golden window. And that is enough. The silence is not a threat in the way we imagined. It is worse than that. It is the final answer, and it does not need us to understand it. The final unsettling thought is this: in an infinite amount of time, the random fluctuations of the vacuum might create a universe exactly like ours again. You might be sitting here again, reading these words, feeling this same dread, but you will not remember this time. Each recurrence is a new isolation, a new erasure, a new birth in the dark. We are trapped in an eternal recurrence of nothingness, punctuated by brief flashes of something that we will never be allowed to keep. The universe is a machine for the forgetting of itself. And beyond the universe, the silence is already practicing your name. The beyond is not a place you go. It is what remains when you are gone. It is the absence that defines your existence. It is the void that makes your matter possible. And as the expansion carries us toward the final horizon, we realize that we have always been beyond. We were just too busy looking at the stars to notice the dark that was holding them up. The dark is our origin. The dark is our home. The dark is our future. And the dark is finally, beautifully, and hauntingly here. The light of the Milky Way is now a ghost on our retinas. The sound of the Big Bang is a whisper in our instruments. The heat of the stars is a memory in our atoms. We are the old ones of the future universe, the ones who remember the fire. But the fire is out. The coals are cold. The ash is scattered. The room is empty. The beyond is silent. And the silence is the only thing that will never leave us. We have reached the end of the journey. We have seen the beyond, and we have found that it is exactly what we feared, and exactly what we expected. It is nothing, and it is everything. This is the final transmission from the golden window. The signal is redshifting. The frequency is dropping. The power is failing. The data is corrupting. The beyond the universe is fading into the background noise. One by one, the bits are flipping from 1 to 0. The information is being lost. The consciousness is dissolving. The observer is vanishing. The universe is closing its eyes. And in the final moment before the total black, there is only one thought left. It was beautiful while it lasted. And then there was only the beyond. The unsettling part is not the end. It is the realization that the end was already there at the beginning. The Big Bang was the start of the big erasure. Every second of progress was a second of dilution. Every moment of life was a moment of decay. We have been running away from the nothingness since the first microsecond, only to find that we were running in a circle. The beyond was always our destination. We were just the last ones to realize it. And now the realization is complete. The circle is closed. The silence is absolute. The journey concludes with a final quiet image, not of a star exploding, but of a single cold iron sphere, drifting in an infinite pitch-black void. No light touches it. No gravity pulls it. No time affects it. It is the final monument to the era of matter. It is a silent, metallic zero in an infinite field of nothing. And as the expansion continues to stretch the space around it, even this sphere begins to feel small, until eventually, even the sphere is gone, and there is only the void, perfectly dark, perfectly empty, perfectly silent, perfectly beyond.